Howdy, everybody. Today is Tuesday, May 10th, and the time is 5:30 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. There is a quorum present, so I'll call the meeting to order. We will be convening immediately into work session in the first floor conference room, and the public is invited to join. Thank you very much.
You're more trusting.
What? We're trying to get
kick you off.
So like, just visually, it looking different, I know exactly what program I'm in. Hold on.
Howdy, everybody. The time is 5:31 p.m. and we're in work session for the Coppell City Council. Item A is discussion regarding the agenda items. Anybody have anything to bring up, questions for staff, comments? Well, they were all standing outside waiting for the opening. They just flooded in.
Now you missed the tip off. You know who's got the ball.
I like this analogy, it's fun.
Can I quote you on that?
No. Please don't.
We'll wait till she gets in before we move on. If no one has anything on the agenda items, Bijou.
Yeah. I don't know if it's, thank you, Mayor. I don't know if it's a question for you or Mike. What's the criteria for adding items to the consent area?
If it's something that y'all discussed before, if it's a budget, it's approved through the budget process, those are the primary two. If it's kind of an SOP, standard operating procedure, for example, tonight, the board appointment as an example. So the agenda is sent out to the mayor in advance, so he has an opportunity to look and see if something he wants on regular agenda or consent agenda. But we propose it, and then once the mayor signs off on it, that's when the agenda goes forward and gets posted as is.
Yeah, so follow-up to that is into the homestead exemption. I thought, most of the time we have budgeted items or approved in the past is what comes to the consent agenda. Homestead exemption we discussed, but we never took a vote or, any type of formal approval. So that also goes through the consent agenda item?
Well, in that instance, at the last meeting, y'all gave a specific instruction of what you wanted, so that's why we included it, because you gave us that instruction. You're more than welcome to move it to regular agenda. We don't have a preference one way or the other.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering what are the criteria?
You gave us specific instruction of what you wanted, so therefore that's why it's on the consent agenda.
Specific instruction on put it on the consent agenda item?
No, you gave us specific instruction about what you wanted for the homestead exemption. So the ordinance was drafted by Bob and included, again, you're more than welcome to pull it to regular agenda. And
Yeah, I don't have any issue with it. I'm just asking what is the right way to...
Again, specific instruction from the last council meeting. not for consent agenda, but specific instruction of what to include in the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
John?
I just want to, I appreciate the email that you sent, but can we just go ahead and go over the content of what you sent to us?
Sure.
I mean,
It came through at 4:45. It was just the details about what we talked about 2 weeks ago as far as the homestead exemption, the tax rate homestead exemption.
Yeah, because we had the argument about whether we want to put it, 75 or 100.
well, it was actually about the tax rate, right? Setting the tax rate to see how that impacts with the exemption increase.
It was all those things.
Right.
So remember this, the information that you have is all subject to change depending on how things come out, but this is where we think we are right now. So the first question that was asked was what the tax rate would look like if there were no change in any exemptions and if we had the M&O rate at 3.499. So remember that with the North Lake sale, the tax rate on the debt service side was going to come down 2 cents. So that would have taken us from 58 to 56. And so if you use the 3.499, again, that's not saying anything more than that, just if you use that, then the tax rate should be around 0.542, roughly 54.2 cents. Under the assumption, which y'all gave us instruction to provide for you tonight, raising the over 65 exemption from 75,000 to 100,000, again, using the same growth in values, and again, using the 3.499, the tax rate would go potentially from 54.2 to 54, let's just say 6. Okay? So, and then the last scenario is basically if the council increases, use that word, reduces the tax rate, but uses the 54.6, the over 65 tax bill is reduced an additional $136.49 to the current, because right now they're already at 75,000, right? So that's an increase in their reduction. And the over 65 tax bill would, so this for everyone else, would increase roughly basically $16. Again, that's using the assumption of 3.499.
The $16 is a result of increasing.
If you make up for the revenues that are reduced by going to the over 65, which is $344,000. I mean, it's all pulling these different levers.
So that's if the increase on the over 65, that's only if we increase the rate to 0.5.
Right, if you choose as a council to say, okay, we're going to offset, this is the way to say it, if we're going to offset the $344,000, in order to do that, the tax rate, even though it's still lower, would be at the 54.6.
Okay. And then if we were to just keep it at 0.5422, then it has no impact on the non-over 65, except that the city would have approximately about 340.
Let's just say 350,000,
Right.
keep it round.
Okay.
You'd have 350,000 based on that growth rate and those assumptions. Does that help?
Yep.
Don?
So, for transparency, so the top part is the question I had is where it came from, and I'll give you the background of why I asked the question. So in the memo, it has two different scenarios in there, two different potential results. One of them is the increase in the savings to over 65, offset by increase in savings, offset by an increase in taxes to everybody else, right? That was one scenario. And then the other scenario is if you just increase the exemption on over 65 and do nothing else, it's going to hit us for $350,000.
Sure.
So, the way the memo read, I just was clarifying that we are looking at two different potential scenarios, right? That's what it is, and that's what his response, or
And for,
Kim's response
yeah, and
was
for
to confirm.
clarification, as we go through the month of June and go through the budget process, we will be getting updates on the values and the appraised values. And so all this is going to be moving a little bit as we go through, and we won't know for certain until the July 25th, until that day comes. So this is based on the information that we have right now. You are, I can say with confidence, you're going to be lowering the tax rate. And now you're talking about splitting some hairs in that particular range.
Right.
And it's just really, at that point, what do you want to do? And those will be, y'all will be able to provide that guidance as we go through the process.
Right.
Anybody else? All right, moving on to item B. This is a discussion of extended hours for the library. Dennis?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the chance to speak with you tonight. Briefly, my purpose in speaking with you this evening is to, my report to you is regarding a service that the library will soon be implementing, as well as a change to its staffed hours. If this agenda item sounds familiar to some of you, it's because we did present to you, to council a few years ago as we were early in the phases of researching this service. And we're now at the point where we're confident that we're ready to launch it within the next month of June. And in keeping with that, I wanted to at least give you a heads up that this is coming down the pike. So when we talk about extended hours at the Cosby Library, just briefly what we're talking about is a solution to the challenge that the library has seen for several years, despite serving the public a total of 70 hours a week across all 7 days of the week, which, by the way, puts us in about the 98th percentile of Texas public libraries in terms of hours per week open to the public at any one location. That said, we still have for many years received word of interest and demand for increasing our hours even further than that. We recognize that there are many in the community who, whether you're a student or a working parent, or you're perhaps a shift worker, even with 70 hours of the week, during daytime hours and early evening hours, our schedule simply may not work for you, or life may happen outside of the time the library is open. So we recognize that there's opportunity there in being able to serve better by finding a way to increase our hours. But the problem that we face is, in order to expand our hours further at the current service level, we would also need to increase staff, which we know is not feasible for the city. So the challenge that we're seeing is we're being asked to meet a demand for increased service hours at the facility, and also to match our staff allocation to demand for staff-involved services. So this is what kind of got us looking for a third option, which we found in the arena of self-service options for access to the facility outside of our fully staffed hours. So what this service would establish is there are sort of 2 times of day for every given day. One, sort of a set of core hours where we're operating at full service with full staffing level, and then a separate batch of hours in the evening where customers who sign up for this service, your library card effectively becomes your key to the building that lets you get in outside of our normal hours within certain parameters. So if you imagine, if you put yourselves in the shoes of, let's say, like I said, a student who's working on a project that's due the next morning, you're a shift worker and your workday doesn't end until 9 p.m., you're effectively ruled out of accessing the library during its current hours. If you're a parent who just needs a bit of peace and quiet and can't get that until after 9:30 at night, your card, if you have signed up for this service, you could use your card to walk up to the front vestibule of the library, scan your library card at this kiosk, enter your PIN, the doors are open, and you would have access to most of the facility. and most of the services that we offer on a self-service basis. You could use this time to pick up your holds, to browse the collection. You could use our computers if your computer is out or you need a piece of software that you don't have. If your printer bit the dust at 10:30 at night and you need to print something for the next morning, you could come in and use our document center. Or if you just need a quiet place to study and work on your project, you'd have access to the entire main area of the library. There would be a time of night where we would need you to leave in order to let the janitorial crew come in the next morning and clean and get the building ready for the next day. But within the parameters of those hours of night, you would have access to the building. I said not all parts of the building. We would note that the study rooms and many of the auxiliary rooms would not be accessible because access to those areas during the day is either requires staff intervention, either the room is available on a rental basis only, and normally staff involvement is needed to facilitate access to the room, or the usage lends itself to other concerns and other potential janitorial concerns. As I said earlier, the nature of a lot of the conversations that we've had with our customers about greater hours or greater extended hours has to do with service. Really where the demand is with services that are already available on a self-service basis. That is, like I said, checking out, picking up holds, and using the study spaces on the main floor and the computer and document services. So that's why we really isolated this service to the core central area of the library and the lobby and the commons as well. Optionally, any customers who are interested in signing up for this service would have the ability to get a new library card that's branded with the service as well, giving it sort of a late night vibe. This wouldn't be required. Whether you use this new card or the one that you've got, opting into the service would grant you the same level of access. And I say that because I know we have lots of members of the community who have held onto the same library card for upwards of 20 years, and it's a really special item for them. We're not going to make you part with that. But if you are interested in getting this new card, you would be welcome to as well. In order to be eligible for this service, a person would have to be a Coppell resident age 17 or older with a library account in good standing. That is to say there's no overdues, charges, or blocks on the account. And you must have agreed to the terms and the policy of this service in writing. This is a measure that we've put. We're not intending to open this up to anybody who's an account holder. This is really, we're looking at this as a premium service, as a convenient service, and as such, we're restricting it to Coppell residents age 17 and older. Recognizing that with this level of access, while there is no staff in the building and no security on site, we recognize that there's a certain level of risk that's involved with this. But to mitigate that, we do have security cameras throughout the building already existing. We've worked with Coppell PD to arrange for periodic patrols through the night. We'll be making personal alarms available to customers while they're in the building. It's kind of like a life alert sort of lanyard that you wear around your neck. Or of course, you also have your cell phone that you could use to dial 911 if you need. And also in the process of signing people up for this service, we're engaging and we're planning a lot of customer education about the risks and responsibilities that come with this. Not to scare them off, but really to let them know that when you use this service, there's a chance you may be the only one in the building, or you may be there with one or two other people, just to be aware of that before you jump in. And as with any of our services, in the case of customers not complying with the policies, the regulations that we put in place, we do reserve the right to revoke access in case of any behavior that is not compliant with our use of the facility, or any damage to the facility or city assets as well. We reserve the right to revoke access. Just to kind of give you a sense of how much time during the week we're talking, on the chart on the screen you see in green are all of our full service hours, as well as the yellow and orange hours are hours during which part of the facility is open, that being our drive-through window and our lobby and commons areas. All total right now we're looking at 70 hours across the week. What we're proposing to do with this service is to allow on weeknights from closing time until midnight. That's when this service would be available. Customers who signed up would be able to access the library. You'll notice that we're also planning to bring back the hour at which our staffed hours ceases on weeknights, Monday through Thursday, from 9 p.m. to 8 p.m. in conjunction with the launch of this service. The reason for that is this. What we're finding that even before COVID and since coming out of COVID, even being open for 70 hours a week, the reality of the usage of the facility in the last hour from 8 to 9 p.m. on Monday to Thursday is that while there are customers in the building taking use of the amenities that we have, the nature of the staff interactions during that hour of the day is really that a lot of our customers are self-sufficient during that hour of the day. At that point, we're not having a lot of customer usage that really is needing staff involvement. In fact, as you can see, it's the slowest hour. Those are the 4 slowest hours of any of the hours of the week that we're open, as compared to the 11 o'clock hour, the 12 o'clock hour early in the day, where customer usage involving staff assistance is much higher. So what having a system like this lets us do is it lets us, in a sense, decouple the two problems of when are people trying to get access to the building, when do people need access to the services on a self-service basis, versus when are people needing staff assistance. It lets us separate those two. Prior to launching this service, we really had to come up with one solution to answer both of those questions. We had to determine our hours both in terms of when people needed to make self-service usage versus when they needed staff. But having a system that lets some of our users get additional hours to the facility, even increase the service to them if they're self-sufficient, that gives us some flexibility to adjust our staffing to better position our staff where we are more needed, which according to the heat chart that we're seeing is actually earlier in the day most days of the week. So all of that said, while I'm sharing this report with you tonight, we're planning some public communication later in the month of May to let the public know that this launch is coming in the month of June. We'll soon begin allowing people to sign up for this service prior to launch, and then, like I said, looking forward to kicking this off in the month of June. So that's a quick overview of what we're planning coming soon in the library. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much for this. Quick question. So are you telling us you're doing this, or are you asking us for input? Because what I just heard right now was you're telling me you're doing this.
This is a package of changes that we are planning to make. Yes, correct.
Okay, so do we have any input on it? Because I have a lot of concerns.
We're happy to hear them.
Okay, that still doesn't do anything
Okay.
for me, Dennis. You gotta tell me, like, do we have input in this, or are you telling me that you're rolling this out and there is no input?
So when we made the presentation back about going forward to the extended hours, y'all talked about some of the safety concerns and security concerns.
So sorry, I may have been.
No, it's okay. I mean, I'm not discounting it at all.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know, because we have the same concerns. It's not just y'all, it's us as well. And so this is something that's not done a lot in the United States yet. It's something that's coming. I think we told you about that as well. So this is our plan to move forward with. The concerns that you have, more than willing to hear them tonight, more than willing to hear them anytime as far as what's going on, and we'll do our best to address the concerns that you have. But we believe this is the right thing for us to do, and that's the plan to go forward. We've invested in the system, and been working with the vendor, been doing the research as far as the other libraries that do have the extended hours without manpower in them. So it's new to us, it's not new to the market, let's put it that way. So please, in terms of what's happening.
Well, I guess then I have some questions. Again, if this has already been heard, I don't want to rehash it. And so
the reason we're here is to inform and to listen.
Okay.
So we just, at the meeting he was talking about, we basically asked them to go look at things that they could do.
Yes.
So we have.
Oh, okay, so that's why I guess, okay, you're right. And so then I guess I thought we were having options, but tonight we don't have an option. Tonight we're rolling this out, and I guess where I'm a little confused is, right, like, I understand that our library gets used a lot. Get it? Like, that was one of the reasons why we went through the huge expansion. Love our library, our citizens love our library. And we also service a lot of our students because some of the schools don't have libraries, or they have a limited library, whatever it might be, right? And so we're rolling this out in the middle of summer, right? And so I guess I questioned the need to have extended hours, where I could see, like, in the month of, like, if we were doing in the month of May or in school or during finals, right, people were needing to go in, or we might have people just different schedules. And so I guess I questioned the timing of rolling this out. I have questions about, you talk about the extended hours, but if I get in at 10:30, right, and then it only goes until midnight, what happens after that time, right? Like, do the lights go out? Does a voice come on and tell me to leave? Does somebody come and make sure that I'm out? Because, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to understand how that works.
So a couple of those things do happen.
Okay.
The lights do not go out automatically because we wouldn't want to leave someone in an unsafe situation. But we
Right.
do have a system that plays automated announcements through the evening as we get closer to closing time. While there wouldn't necessarily be someone in the building at the moment of midnight to sort of escort you out the building, I did mention we've worked an arrangement with the police department to come do periodic patrols through the evening to make sure that the building has been vacated by a certain time.
Gotcha, okay.
Right.
So,
And in addition to all that, like I said, we do have cameras throughout the building, and we'd be able to review the tape the next morning to ensure that everybody was playing by the rules. And if anybody was not, we'd have identification to be able to reach out to someone and have a conversation with them if needed, or revoke access.
right, so I guess from an identification standpoint too, if I come in, I have the extended card, but I bring my 10 friends with me, right? But then there's other people that come in as well. I mean, I know you can review it, I get cameras, but I guess I just question, you talk about like you don't want lights off because you don't want them in an unsafe situation. I think the fact that you're leaving them unattended is an unsafe situation, right? So I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. And so we are responsible for every single person that walks in there. And I guess I'm concerned from a safety perspective. I realize that our police are close by. I realize that they're periodically going to go around there, but what does periodic mean? How often are they checking? I guess I just question some of the security measures. I also question and again, my thoughts are not in any way organized right now, so I'm going all over the place. The other thing is that by us having extended hours, will we start to see people coming less during the hours of service when we have staff there? And so will that shift per se? I don't know. And so, we've recently, I think, added maybe 1 or 2 people to the library, and we want to make sure that people maximize the time, right? The library is open. So I'm concerned about that because we're not just doing it once a week, we're offering it several days a week, right? So those are just a couple of things right now. I'm sure I'll have more in a minute.
Sure. I can address a couple of
Oh
things.
yeah, and I think the other thing too, I'll ask you real quick too, is I think Mike, you said nobody else, or this isn't popular.
I'd rather have him answer that
Okay,
question.
are there any, well, you had made a comment that there is.
No,
we
I
don't-
know, but
this
you're gonna
isn't-
ask some
look,
specifics.
Are there other communities that are doing this and what worked well and not worked well for them?
Sure. I'll answer those in reverse order.
Okay, anyway.
So this kind of technology is by this point, fairly common in the European market, primarily in like Denmark and the Netherlands. It really hasn't gotten wide adoption in the North American continent beyond, I would say, college and university libraries, where there are more strings attached, let's say, to the accounts of a user that may use that library by virtue of being a student. But in the public library arena, we know of about a dozen or so library systems in the US and Canada that are using a system like this to augment existing hours, or in some cases to make this may be the only way that you access a certain branch in a rural location of a multi-branch, like county-wide system. We're not seeing a lot of libraries who are using it quite in the way that we are. That is to add on to hours at a single branch location. So we would be a bit of a new case in that respect. But we do have a lot of counterparts who are using it as part of a larger system. For a lot of the same reasons that we were exploring this as well. In fact, in the past 6 to 12 months, I know of about 3 or 4 new systems that are starting to put in library systems that are starting to put in technology systems like this. We don't know of any in the state of Texas yet, but we know that some of our partners in the region are looking at it. As to how this may impact usage patterns, you're right, it's a possibility that once we turn this kind of service on, there may be some users who feel pretty self-sufficient and for whom later evenings may be more convenient for them, in which case we'd more than welcome them using the library during these times of day if it works better for them. That would actually, we would see that that would create staff capacity during the day, where we're able to devote more attention to our daytime customers who need the staff interaction or the staff assistance. So it's a possibility that it may affect customer patterns, but we feel like if it does, then it would be for just cause. And the third thing I think you mentioned was bringing groups of people in with you. And this is one of the pieces where we really are working to educate, or will be working to educate customers who sign up. Part of the responsibility that we would be passing along to people to cardholders who are using the service is that they're welcome to bring in members of their own household, but they're not to let people in who are not of their household, even as they're entering the building. We really need them to help us keep the integrity of the authentication system in place. And if we find that someone has not been doing that, then they would lose their access to this service.
Gotcha. And the other question, I know, I'm sorry, just real quick. The other thing I have a question is on, so you brought this forward, there were supposed to be some options. Are there other options that you've looked into other than this one? And why did this one get, I guess, chosen? And then I'd also love to know, like, when we talk about people wanting more access, like, are we talking 10 people, or are we talking 1,000 people? Like, what, help me with the range of who needs after-hour access.
I don't have a hard number for you, but I know it's a conversation we've been having with customers at least as long as I've been with the city, which is about the time of our renovation in 2016. Where there's always somebody who's coming to the library who's interested in different hours than we have. We're also looking at 2040. We're looking through this through the lens of 2040. Any enhancement that we can provide, or any enhanced level of service or quantity of service that we can provide in the library, obviously supports the first pillar of the learning environment. This would be more inclusive toward folks for whom our current hours don't work. Like I said, either they work a shift, or they're completely occupied, or their attention's otherwise divided during the day. And late evening would really be the only time of day where they could even participate in what we have going on. And in terms of sustainable government service, we came to this option actually by working with a company who was willing to give us the hardware for free. We're really only paying maintenance, and so it's costing us, I'd say, about 20% of what it originally would, which is even a smaller fraction of the staff that it would take in order to expand our hours to this level of service. So that's really the lens through which we're looking at it as well.
Gotcha. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I had a whole list of questions. So that floor plan that you brought up with the white and the gray areas, that one, do you have full camera coverage in every spot in that library?
Except for the restrooms, yes.
Okay, so fully covered the white areas, except for the restrooms, okay. That's good. And then you said that it's only supposed to be family owners that come in with someone that has a card.
And their household.
Are you guys going to go back and review the tape every morning to make sure that there's not a whole group of high school students that came with somebody?
Early on, after the launch of this service, we'll be keeping a close eye on it. But when we get to regular implementation, we would do more spot checking, I would say. And certainly, if we come in the morning and we discover that there's been some kind of unacceptable behavior or some damage to the facility, then we obviously would go back and look. But once we get to regular operations, I wouldn't expect that we'd be checking that religiously, so to speak.
Yeah, and I am concerned with some type of unacceptable behavior where things are damaged, but also if someone's got the great idea, hey, I'm going to take my study group and we're going to go over to the library and study, that doesn't fit within the rules of what's laid out. Now, if everybody had a card, it does, but how do we...
And has signed up as we need them to.
Yeah,
correct.
So I just worry about that a little bit. So you said that closing time, the procedure will be the police will come sometime after midnight, shortly thereafter, like 12:05?
As part of their rounds. We're not able to commit to a specific time every night given the nature of their work, but as part of their beat, they'd be coming by on a periodic basis.
And then they do like a full sweep of the area, check all the bathrooms and everything?
As they're able, yes.
As they're able.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's got to be a pretty firm commitment that, yes, that's what they're going to do. Let me see. So you said they gave us the system, which that's great, and then it's only maintenance. How much is it yearly?
It's in the neighborhood of 10,000.
10,000 a year. And I'm sorry, I don't remember seeing where that was being funded from.
It's in the library budget.
In the library, okay.
Yes, sir.
Along with the added, getting back to the regular hours, where we've got that all covered.
You're referring to our restaffing last year to get back to...
Yes.
Yes, yes. All of our staff is funded out of the library budget, which comes from the general fund.
Okay. Thank you.
John, did you have something?
I can go after this. I have some.
Kevin?
Just was curious about the 17 age versus going up to 18. What's the rationale between 17 and technically a minor being allowed
Right.
access versus someone being 18?
We're looking at high school seniors mainly. That we originally did have it set at 18, but look to bring it down to 17 to allow anybody during their high school senior year to be able to use this. And anybody in the 17 age range would need a parent signature on the agreement form as well, as a minor.
I remember being 17.
Well, and it's technically through the police department, they're considered,
No.
they're not considered a minor.
No, understood, but I just remember being 17 and
Yeah.
a senior in high school and
I have one.
not always making the best choices in the world. And that's honestly just, I understand the consideration of the senior, but in that, like, why is the senior given priority over the junior? Yes, they have one more year of school. I'm concerned about it being 17. I think the program's innovative. I think it's very cool. I think I love the use of technology. It's very forward thinking. But I have concerns about minor, like, I know in the eyes of Texas law,
Yeah.
17, but I have concerns about them not being adults. And even 18 is questionable, because I remember that being 18 as well. But just my thoughts on that. I would ask you to please go back and reconsider that.
John?
Thank you, Mayor. So I do want to say that I'll echo some of the concerns that's been raised by Brianna and Mark and Kevin, but I honestly like the idea of being innovative, because I always questioned about during the finals, a lot of the students, even my kids, had an issue where they didn't have a place to go study after the library hours, and they wish, because it's quite different studying at the library versus at home. So especially during the finals, I thought it would be really cool to have a place like library to be able to accommodate those who want to study for the finals. So that has always been back in my mind. But with that said, you talked about 20% of the cost that we're paying right now. How long is that good for? I mean, are we talking about try 1 year and they're going to come back and hit us with the...
No, I'm sorry. So to clarify, what I was talking about is if we were to purchase and implement this system on our own with no discount, the initial investment would have been about $50,000 or $60,000.
Okay.
But the vendor that we've worked with has waived the hardware and install cost.
Right.
And all that we're responsible for from here on out is the annual maintenance, which is in the ballpark of $10,000.
So the annual maintenance, how long is that for? Like, for example, is there going to be an upgrade that we're going to have to go ahead and fork up a cost if we're to continue with this, or any idea on that?
Not that we're aware of at this point. I mean, certainly if that were to happen and the cost went outside the range of our budgetary ability or our fiscal constraints, then we'd revisit. But as far at the moment, we're not seeing any reason to expect the cost to go up.
Okay.
Beyond, I guess, what would be normal for any other cost to go up year to year.
Okay. And then once this is implemented, it'll be pretty much a year-round thing, right?
That's how we're envisioning it, yes.
Okay. And then you talked about how you're going to be able to, I guess, deny access to somebody, or if you saw the video and you actually saw something, whether there's a damage or something to that effect, how are we going to do in terms of enforceability? To what extent are we going to try to enforce the liability?
To what extent?
Yeah.
We have if it's beyond revoking access, we have the means to, I suppose, to seek reimbursement from a person who damaged city facility or stole something of significant value. We would have the means to recoup the cost from them to replace. If that's what you're, if I'm understanding your question.
Are we willing to go to the extent of taking to the court or whatever we need to, by all means necessary to, if there was extensive damage that really needed it?
I would say that would apply just as much during extended hours as it would during the daytime.
Okay. On the access, if a group wanted to go study, just say,
Yes, sir.
each one would have to have an access card to be able to go. Is that pretty much the standard?
If we're talking about a study group where all the members are of different households, then yes, each of the members of the group would have to go through the sign-up process on their own.
Okay.
And would therefore have to be over 17 and be residents and be in good standing.
Okay. We currently have insurance, right, for the library as well? Do we have insurance for the library?
We're covered under the city's insurance.
So how does access like this does it affect our insurance at all, to any extent?
We're not aware that it affects the insurance.
So if somebody went in and did something, would that be covered? You know?
It's on the facility, yes, and the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
If somebody were injured, they would be covered.
Okay.
If somebody caused damage,
It would
we could
yeah.
fix it and then, to your point, pursue whatever legal means we have to pursue it.
Okay.
Same as during the daytime.
Right.
Okay. I think that's all I have right now. Yeah. I'll
Don,
come back.
did you raise your hand a while ago?
I did not.
All right, Mark?
Okay, I have a question for Bob. So if there was something to happen in the library, is there any liability on the city's part?
Yeah.
When they sign up to
Let me
get
say
the...
that we have immunity, there's exceptions to that immunity. One of the things that might be concerning is if we had a premise, like there was a water spill, someone slipped, fall. We don't have any liability unless we knew about it. Well, the cameras on there, they can see that. It's been there at 10 o'clock, and someone slips at 11:30, that's an hour and a half, who's watching the cameras? There are some liability issues. If a crime is committed, the victim might have cause to have some concern, because the use to get into the facility, I can see a slick lawyer saying that's motor-driven equipment, so access, the criminal has obtained access through motor-driven equipment, and that may waive our immunity. And there's some limits to liability for the city because of our size. But there may be liability issues that need to be vetted at some point.
When they go to sign up for access, can we ask them to sign a hold harmless agreement?
Yeah, it's worthless.
Worthless?
Yeah, you can't release an unknown, unexpected danger. You can only, the disclaimer document you would have to sign, I would never go in after 10 o'clock. Because you'd have to say that I know I run the risk of being attacked by someone, and I slip and fall. No one's gonna sign that. And unless you have a known, a waiver is only good if there's a known danger expressed. And so it'd be very difficult to write that, to waive that kind of exposure.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. And then I had one more question. So this lanyard or personal safety device, do they check that out somehow and then return it, or is it just a big box of them and they just grab them?
They would, the latter, they would be available on a hook near the entrance. They're quite inexpensive to purchase and replace, so we're not worried about losing them. Once they leave the facility, they would not be useful anymore.
Okay. You said inexpensive.
Yes,
Okay.
very inexpensive.
Good clarification.
Clifton?
Now, Dennis, in the write-up, it indicates that I'm old, so it indicates that this modification is for Monday through Thursday. And then I saw some blue get into Friday, I think, when you put that in there. Can you explain that?
That's a typo on my part. We are planning to implement this Monday through Friday.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Is that it? What else did you want me to say? I'm satisfied with this, and I'm satisfied with what Bob said, in that in all of my dealings in my 25 years of existence, is that you can't get away from liability. For example, down at the square in Old Town, there are restrooms in there, and those restrooms are open a lot. I mean, the same slip and fall could happen in one of those restrooms as it would in the library. So you can't do it. I mean, that's just part of living. Maybe you can get insurance, an umbrella policy or something to cover those things, but it's just.
Thank you.
Yes.
Peachy?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dennis, for the presentation. I like the innovative ideas. I also share that some of the concerns. I have a specific question for you. You mentioned in your presentation extended hours only for Coppell residents, correct?
Correct.
Do we offer library card to Irving residents?
We do, for a fee.
Okay.
Any card holder who does not have a Coppell residence has to pay an annual fee for the
Are they
membership.
eligible for this privilege?
They're not.
Okay. Next question. The hardware cost and software cost is covered. Only we have to pay maintenance fee of $10,000, correct?
Correct.
If the vendor comes back and next year say we need to upgrade the hardware, who's going to pay?
At hardware upgrade, I would expect that we would budget for that on a planned basis. If they come back
Next
Next
year
year?
saying, hey, the software needs to be upgraded, the existing hardware is not good enough, therefore we need to upgrade, who's going to pay for
Well,
that?
then we would work with the vendor to find the most reasonable arrangement that we could within our budgetary constraints. I mean, we understand that hardware is going to have to be replaced eventually, but I don't see that happening in the next year or two. Most of our hardware has a 3 to 5 year lifespan, no longer.
Okay, my third question.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other city in North Dallas is doing extended hours?
I'm sorry?
Are there any other cities within North Dallas is doing this extended hours?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Brianna?
So, let me start by saying that I'm all for 2040 and I'm all for technology and I'm all for innovation. Okay, so let me stand clear there. My biggest issue is safety, right? I'd rather have a skateboard park than do the extended hours. And we've been talking about skateboarding parks for a long time, right? So you can bring that one back up if you want to, I'm sure. So concern, I think, as we mentioned about 17-year-olds, right? I have one. I have a junior who's a 17-year-old. And there's so many things I worry about because there seems to be a lot of unknowns, right? We don't know when the police officers are gonna come by. That's based on their schedule. I know we have cameras. We don't know, we might check them for the first couple of months, which is like June, July, August, but then like, I don't know how often that's gonna happen. So from a safety perspective, I'd be curious on this vendor. I don't know who else they work with or who they do work with, or if you've seen other vendors, but, valid question on just costs as well, on upgrades, like that has to be baked into the contract somewhere. And I do technology transactions every single day, so I know it's gotta be in there somewhere. They have to tell you whether it's in 3 years and 5 years they're gonna charge you, or it's annual, or it's never, right? So that would be good to know for us too, from a planning perspective. So, because safety and cost are kind of two of my biggest things. I think that safety is number one for me, and just like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong for the Parks Board, but do we not lock our bathrooms after a certain hour everywhere?
Not all the time, no.
Not all the time, okay.
No,
I thought all our park bathrooms were.
Sometimes they're winterized and locked
Okay.
up, but other than that, they're open.
And I, thank you, and I think there's just a lot of unknowns. Here would be my recommendation if y'all are gonna go forward with this and all you can do is hear us, and my recommendation would be, could we start with 2 days a week rather than all 5? Could we start with 2 and see how it's used, see how it goes, have a better idea for some, like, can we do some sort of a slow rollout, which I would think there would be more usage in the school year than there would in the summer anyway, but like, is there a way for us to just kind of phase this? Maybe that's what I'm looking for, rather than just a full-fledged 5 days, let's just have it open. Because I think there are so many things we could learn, or you can come back and be like, hey, this is, I mean, I would love frequent reports, this is going well, we've got 100 people using it, and, you know, whatever it might be, just, I would love to see this phased in rather than, or phased out, however we want to say it, but rather than it being a full-fledged 5 days a week and open. So, I don't know, Mayor, you have a concern?
No, I can't disagree with anything that anybody said. I had a couple of questions of my own. You talked about the cleaning crew would come in after the library closed. This may be way down too far in the weeds, but would they know to report something as soon as they found it? How would that work? Suppose some damage or some occurred, would they know to report that, or would you wait till the staff got in the next morning?
There's only so much that we would be able, I'll need to look to Steve Shore on that one, only so much that we could expect from them in terms of their reporting and their enforcement. It's been a while since we talked about that, Steve.
You're referring
The
to
janitorial crew.
staff?
If they, yeah.
Yeah, well, they're starting June 1st, they will be coming in the morning, so they will be there basically just shortly before your staff.
Right.
So it's not like they would be there at night and there would be
Okay.
several
But
hours.
they would get first sight on the building, essentially.
Correct,
the
and at
first
that
eyes on the
point,
building.
they're supposed to call their supervisor, who would call me.
Okay. So one of the things that I heard everybody kind of talking about, and you actually mentioned it, and was the hardware.
Yes.
What I'm gonna request with the council's concurrence is that, and I don't want to get down in the weeds, and we're kind of headed that way, but could you come in and give us a description of how this is gonna work? You've been talking about what you're gonna do, which is great. I mean, the what is wonderful. Where we're getting bound up is in the how that's gonna happen. And I think to get some confidence here, we need to know a little bit more about the how it's gonna work.
How the authentication system is going to work?
And the security
And
system.
the security system is going to work.
And, yeah, all the above. Because is the authentication, is the system that you're buying just the authenticator that identifies the person coming in? Or does it tie into the security system, or are there motion detectors in addition to the cameras? I've got the same questions that most of these guys have.
So the authentication system actually is also the piece that either grants or denies access to the building. So it's security enforcement at the point of entry.
Okay.
Motion sensors, no, because our cameras on the building are always running and recording.
Okay.
But I hear you're looking for more detail on how the system works.
I think so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do a lot of access control, so if someone props that door open a little bit, are there screamers on there that will make a lot of noise until that door is closed behind them?
Aside from an emergency exit,
No, I'm just talking about the entrance door where they come in. If they prop that open a little bit, you can put a little contactor up there that will have a really loud alarm that sounds until that door is closed. And it usually there's a delay of about 30 seconds or something before that actually occurs.
I'm not familiar with the practice that you're referring to.
That might cause more alarm. People think something happened.
Well, I mean, it's,
Little prop doors open? Like when your refrigerator door,
Yeah, I know
right?
that.
You leave
Yeah.
it open for a certain amount of time, it beeps at you.
John?
You said there's some, not in Texas, I guess, but other cities or other states, they have actually had this implemented.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what the usage I guess, from the time that they implemented what the usage, how long the usage has become, where it's worth having it versus the, I guess, the cost and so forth, or what the usage was after, I don't know, 6 months? Because I don't know what the demand is right now, but I'm guessing that, and I hear what Brianna was saying, but actually I thought this is the starting point and that we could actually extend to the weekends, evening, because if you actually constrict it down to Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, that actually, I mean, they might not want to go on Monday, Tuesday, or they might not want to go Tuesday, Wednesday. Just give it 5 days a week, and then if that works, we have more people. Maybe we might have a need to extend it through the weekend hours as well. So,
Yeah,
but-
Sunday night, a lot of kids do homework.
yeah. So I see the value in it. I just don't know how much of a usage this will be. At what point do we see this being as a valuable service that's, we probably need to expand on it.
Return on investment.
Right.
I think if you look at go to the slide where we're showing touches by
No,
staff.
I was thinking, but like start with you, start with you and then expand it and then go to the
Interaction
weekend.
with staff. If you take a look at this, the highest interaction with staff is on Saturday and Sunday,
That's
which
correct.
I found very interesting.
Well, because there's more
The
people at home.
intensity,
Huh?
the reduced hours and the intensity of use.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
working,
possible
That's
too,
when you go to the
right.
library,
So,
when we
So-
go to the library.
question for the group. This is absolutely meeting the 2040 criteria. It's meeting everything that we've asked the staff to go out and do from the library standpoint. So what's the direction? I mean, he's come back with a plan that is addressing our request.
Mayor, I'll say something. I mean, I get all the concerns, but I do appreciate looking in, I guess, thinking outside the box, so to say. And I do appreciate the idea, because I've mentioned, I think, sometimes to even staff, the library staff, that, it'd be great if we had after-hour service or some way to access for the kids to be able to study, especially during the finals. So I think this is a great idea. We just need to, I guess, try to tweak and make sure that, the benefit outweighs the risk, right? So I think that's all we're concerned about.
So the question comes back is, what does Dennis need to do to give us the confidence to move forward? So, Bijou?
Yeah, I was thinking, let's launch a pilot program until December 31st and get some feedback and see how things are going, then authorize to go forward. We'll get a report 1 month in advance by November, then start it again on January.
Is it a one-year agreement? Sorry, just real quick.
Yeah.
1 year with renewals.
That's all.
Is that optional, or is that just a must?
Is it automatic renewals or is it, or we like renegotiate after a year?
They're giving us the equipment.
But I mean, is it optional? Or are we
There's a
bound to renew for so many years?
We have our way out. It's not a,
It's
not an evergreen.
It has to have an out clause, because you can't commit the city to a future past the budget year, so it has cancellation provision.
And
It's
We have
90 days.
$10,000 commitment.
It's usually 90 days before the end of the term. We have to give them notice,
Okay.
either to renew or.
But it's yearly.
Cliff?
This is probably a question for Mike. Our IT department is involved in this contract. I'm sure that
They have been involved.
Dennis is not doing this by himself. And so they're using the same protocols and that sort of stuff that we are on all the contracts really across the board is the city as far as the.
As far as I know, yes. Dennis has been so facilities has been involved as well as the enterprise solution has been involved.
So it's the same, and so there's the concern about, them raising the rates or
But
that sort
it'll
of
all be
stuff.
handled-
We're faced with all of
Right,
those
right.
on everything that we do, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other thing is, I'm with you, John, on the 5 days a week. I wouldn't want to mess with that at all. I don't think that buys us anything, not really. Because we could shut it down 3 days if we want to, if there's something that's, nefarious or some problems that we have at any time.
you're correct. As with any service that we offer, we do reserve the right to, if we find that it's not working out, if it's truly not working out, we don't have to continue offering the service.
Yes.
Mark?
I mean, I think I would question being open on a Friday night and not on a Sunday night. I don't know how many kids or seniors are doing their homework, Friday from 9 to 11. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not doing it on a Friday.
But they're doing it on Sunday. I mean, that's where you crank out the work for class on Monday. So, I mean, I don't know if it were me.
We did, it's not lost on us clearly that weekends are obviously our busiest days, and that's actually part of the reason that we're not looking at implementing the service on Saturdays and Sundays, at least at present. It's a lot easier for us to finish the day, Monday through Friday, and wrap the building up and leave the building in a show-ready condition. With the level of business that we see on Saturdays and Sundays, oftentimes, even with staff staying in the building until 15 minutes past close, that's not enough time to do a full reset. So if we were to transition from that point on Saturdays and Sundays into extended hours, the building would not be show ready. It would not be the face that we've been expected to show the public, the state of the building. A lot of the time, the reset and the cleanup needs to happen the next morning. That is Friday spills over into Sunday, Sunday spills over into Monday morning. So that's the main reason that we've not been considering Saturday and Sunday evenings at this point.
So the question, sorry, yeah. So you're saying that, I mean, is it that bad that to prepare for the next day that it's just?
There is a lot of cleanup to do.
Really?
Yes,
Oh.
as you can see with the level of activity that we have on Saturdays and Sundays.
Kevin?
So, and just to make sure I understand everything correctly, so as we kind of discussed earlier, so you're just telling us this is the plan that you're looking to implement starting in June, correct?
That is correct.
So, Mayor, specifically, you asked a question, like, are you just asking like what we need to feel comfortable? Because, I mean, concerns have been voiced and things like that. So if this plan is moving forward, what does Dennis need from us to make it happen? I want to make sure I understand the scope of this discussion correctly. So
What I heard, so I'll step, because I'm the guy, right? What I heard is you would like us to come back to give you some more information on the security issue, that being the primary concern.
okay.
So we will talk on that end to come back to you so we can give you some more concrete, let's call it concrete responses to that. As far as moving forward, here's the deal, folks. Until we try it, there's some things we're just not going to know.
Mhm.
And you got to get comfortable with not knowing. And if you're, as far as, I mean, believe me, Dennis knows I've asked a lot of these same questions, the very same questions. And supporting the idea. So coming back to Brianna's point, coming back to and giving a report, here's what's going on with usage, here's what the numbers are, here's what we're finding, those kind of things. We're happy to give you those reports to go along. And the kicker in all this is if we find that there's some problem, he has the ability to shut it down.
Sure.
And so, in terms of what's going on. Now, between now and then, the concerns of safety, there will always be there's concerns of safety every day in what we do 24/7. I'm not making light of that. So I have the same concerns in terms of what's going on, as far as getting into the building afterwards. And if somebody wants to purposely do something bad, they're going to want to do something purposely bad, right? And we've got to be prepared. But I got to be prepared 24/7 for that.
Brianna?
Sorry, and I totally hear you. I guess I go, security is always gonna be utmost, right? I have a 17-year-old son, I have a 12-year-old daughter. I don't let her go to the bathroom by herself anywhere because human trafficking is a real thing, right? I know that people hide out in bathrooms and they do bad things. My hope is that that's not what's gonna happen, that we are limiting access, that there are, and my hope that this goes well and that it's successful. I want nothing more than to be an innovative city. We don't know what we don't know. But I will go on record that safety is my utmost priority and concern for everybody, our elderly, our children, and everybody in between. And I want them to have a safe place, period. So I hear that this is going forward. I do nothing more than support you and your idea and the entire library staff in the city. And I guess we won't know, like, we won't know unless we try it, like red light cameras, right? We won't know unless we try it. And so we'll go forward. I will have one of those cards, and if I can poke holes and gaps and bring them to your attention, I will poke holes and gaps into it. So,
Don?
and not a bad way, to help you.
I thought it was a good idea and well planned out, so I appreciate you bringing it up. The system that we keep talking about, is it just an access control system? Is that all it is? Is that, I mean, that's just like we have on all the other buildings, right?
Essentially, yes, but specifically, it's one that interacts with our existing library account database.
Okay, all right.
That's what makes it specific to the library market.
Because I would have thought the equipment, for the most part, it's, relatively, not that big of a deal. It's a relatively low dollar if it's just access control and such. So in maybe addressing some of the concerns, and this has a dollar tag attached to it, but, just having some kind of security presence in the building, I guess, could be an alternative. So just something to thought. I mean, you're talking about 22 hours, I think is what you have up there. So there's a bill with that, if you have somebody on staff, but having a presence in the building is going to change the environment, so that's an option. Also, you mentioned the security cameras. I know they record and everything. Are they also able to be monitored in real time?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess potentially that could be another option if there was some kind of monitoring going on. So those were a couple of thoughts, I guess, to sort of address some of the security, security concerns. So those are my thoughts.
Kevin?
Two final things for me. As far as the application process goes, is there a maximum amount of people that would be allowed to be in this program for the after-hours access?
We had not envisioned setting one. I could look in to see what the capability of the system would be to enforce that. But again, the moment someone brings another person in with them.
And then second thing is, within the application process, is there some sort of, besides an education piece about, hey, here are the kind of the rules and things that we ask you to follow, is there any sort of like background check on the people that are allowed access afterwards to potentially thwart any of that?
Yes, sir.
Didn't think so.
Are the videos accessible by the police or?
Yes, sir.
They are? And would they be able to monitor it during those hours if they wanted to?
They could.
Okay.
They do that for the city facilities, don't they?
They do. I mean, we have.
I think we do that, yeah. 'Cause
All of our facilities
I was
are
gonna say,
filmed.
I used to come in here from time to time and work late, and so, and somebody would be like, oh, I saw you working.
So we do have a way right now monitoring all the systems.
City facilities,
It's
yeah.
done.
And that could be added on to that and.
It's
I guess
already part of the system.
Part of it already, okay, so.
Yes.
So
It's already.
So it is a monitor
Yes.
24 hour basically?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so to clarify, the security cameras were in place before we even considered this
Right, okay.
additional service.
It's part of just the nature of the city.
Okay, so I just thought that somebody was doing it after
No.
like tonight.
No, sir, and I apologize for that, but no.
They're not live monitored 24/7.
No, I understand
Right.
that, but you have access to it at all
All the time.
times. Right,
No,
or-
but that's a good clarification, they're
Yeah, I
not,
thought, they're
It's
not
not
monitored
no,
24/7.
Why?
There's
yeah.
not somebody watching all however
No.
many
Okay,
hundreds of cameras.
but if we were to request
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
monitor up to the, I guess, 12 o'clock, is that something that they're already doing that we could add on, or is that?
No, but when you ask the question about security,
Uh-huh.
those are the kind of questions we'll go back and come to you
Okay.
and say, okay, door ajar, security cameras and those kind of, we'll go through that iteration
Okay.
and come back with you. Or at least in a memo form, at least at a minimum.
So
Here's what we do, bam, bam,
when will
bam.
these extended cards be available?
I'm sorry?
When will these extended cards be available?
We had been planning to let people start signing up later this month with an effective date in June, once we flip the switch on the service.
Will you let me know when they're ready?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, I just want to say again, I appreciate the thinking outside of the box. I think this is a good way to try to accommodate some of the people that might not be able to come during the regular hours. So thank you for that.
No question.
Mark?
And so I just want to know a little more about this personal safety device lanyard.
Yes, sir.
They press it, does it immediately call the police?
It goes to
Call
dis-
911?
it's effectively the same as a 911 call.
It goes to
It goes to
dispatch.
it goes to dispatch, and
Yeah.
dispatch then routes the call to local PD.
Okay.
And they show up with no questions asked.
Everybody okay for now? I find it, this is I find this very educational, just not only from what Dennis is proposing, but when we ask for something and then what we're given, so,
And so I guess real quick, just to that point, so I know you're going forward with this, but were there other options that were considered of being able to solve for the extended hours?
As long as we were having to determine the same schedule of hours to serve all of our customers, we did not find another solution that wasn't going to somehow involve increasing staff.
Gotcha.
Right. As you remember the conversations that we had last summer, when we were really interested in getting the library back up to 70 hours, we had to increase the staffing to be able to support that safely.
Right, gotcha. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much.
That was
Thank you.
fun.
Thank you.
Item C, Mike is standing up, so I guess he's up for it. This is a discussion regarding the Arbor Brook Channel Restoration Project.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you. Yes, this work session item is to discuss a proposed project that has been identified in the Drainage Utility District Fund for several years now. This is what we call the Arbor Brook Channel, also known as Stream G3, and it's located in the North Lake Woodlands neighborhood between Denton Tap and Moore Road. It's south of Bethel School and north of Grapevine Creek between Arbor Brook Lane and Lee Valley Drive. This is a natural channel that discharges to the south at Grapevine Creek. Just a little bit of history here. Here's a photo from 1958. You can see that the channel exists here, as well as several other channels along that creek, that tributaries that discharge into Grapevine Creek. And here it is again in 1964. You can see it's been there for some time now. And then again in 1983, as you can see the development that has occurred around it. As these photos show, this drainage channel has always been there, and the development occurred according to our records in the mid to late 1970s. At that time, we did not have the same drainage standards and guidelines that we have today. The development was designed to drain the stormwater runoff from the roadways to the bar ditches and then get into this channel and eventually discharge into Grapevine Creek. The challenge that we have is that the channel is located behind the homes between Arbor Brook and Lee Valley, which means the majority of the houses are below the street level, and so when it rains, the runoff goes into bar ditches in between the houses and then discharges into the back channel behind the homes. According to the plat and the development requirements, the individual homeowners are responsible for maintaining all the open ditches and channels, drainage channels in this development, including the ones that are in the front yard, in the right-of-way, and in the backyards behind the homes. And over the last 40 years, new homeowners have come in. Some of them have been maintained, some of them have not, and so we've had some issues with flooding and drainage in these channelways. And when I mean maintained, it's more of making sure there's no debris, there's no buildup, that they mow the areas, that they don't throw their grass clippings or bags of leaves and dump them in this area. So some homes have been flooded over the years. When water gets too high, the bar ditches have been overtopped, and the water doesn't get into the drainage channel. We have gone out there several times to regrade the bar ditches. We have done some maintenance and addressed some of the issues in the channel, that's the Arbor Brook channel. But the issue is that that channel does not convey the storm water that it was once intended to do. So this picture here, the picture on the left is from our GIS utility site. You can see there is a green line that represents our sanitary sewer that's about midway of the picture on the left, and then it goes to the south. That's a sanitary sewer line that's in the middle of this channel. Over time, the degradation of this channel has exposed that sewer line, and so part of this proposed project would be to replace that 1970 clay pipe sanitary sewer line as well. But that portion would be funded out of the water sewer fund. The channel is located here where that blue line just popped up, and so you can see that sanitary sewer is just right smack dab in the middle of that channel. What happened is over the past 40 years, this channel has changed, whether naturally or artificially, just due to many factors. The picture on the right is from our stormwater, citywide stormwater study that we did a few years ago, which identified this area as a high priority drainage problem. The colors that you see on the map show the depth of water in a 1% storm. So the color towards the top of the map, the bluish, dark blue, light blue, that represents about half a foot to about a foot of water ponding in the backyards. As you move downstream to the yellows and the oranges, that gets to about 4 to 6 feet of water ponding in the backyards of those homes. These two pictures here represent that we do have a drainage and utility easement down the center of that channel. The orange shaded color is the 20-foot easement. It's 10 foot on either side of the middle of the creek or the middle of the channel on either side of the property line. From this representation, you can see that sanitary sewer is not quite in that drainage and utility easement, so part of this project we would clean that up and make sure we do get that sewer line in the easement. But as you may be able to tell from the pictures, in those easements you see some structures, sheds, buildings. There's all kinds of things that have been installed in that drainage easement over the last 40 plus years that have potentially caused conveyance issues of this channel. Here's a couple of pictures of what it looks like. The picture on the left is as close to an ideal V-shaped channel as what it should have originally been when it was first, when the development first occurred. You can kind of see a V-shape without all the trees and the debris in there. If this was just a V-shaped channel with grass maintained, that's ideally what it should look like. What happened over the years is out of sight, out of mind, behind the fences, homeowners dump leaves, grass clipping, just the nature of the trees back there, leaves falling, silt build up, things just happen over 40 plus years, and so we get blockages and conveyance issues and causing problems to the adjacent the homeowners. The picture on the right is just an example of things that have been installed in the drainage channel, a fence, a dog walk. I'm not sure what's actually there, but these are issues that have been brought up that can cause conveyance issues through the channel. A couple more pictures that show what's existing back there. You can see there's a shed on the picture on the right. There are several retaining walls that line this channel throughout the site, and so there are also some homeowners have installed underground drainage systems back there that we are unaware of. As we've walked and investigated, we've come across some of these, and so 40 plus years of unknown things are back there that we're going to try to uncover and figure out how we can best address this drainage. You may be asking, this is on private property. We do have an easement. Why are we doing this? Well, this project has been on our list for some time now and was included in our DUD rate study because we have the responsibility to maintain conveyance of our waterways. As part of our National Flood Insurance Program, that's part of our responsibility, is make sure natural drainage ways continue to convey stormwater runoff as they once should. And also the sanitary sewer in this channel needs to be replaced. It's 1970s clay pipe. It's being exposed just from degradation of the channel. It's risen to the top, and you can see the top of the pipe. And so we would replace that. Once we're done with this project, maintenance would fall back onto the responsibility of the homeowners. And again, when I mean maintenance, just make sure there's no debris, grass clippings, structures blocking the flow, that sort of thing. We don't expect them to maintain infrastructure that's in there. We would continue to maintain that infrastructure. So this proposed project is intended to address the conveyance runoff that this channel was originally intended to do so. We have engaged a consultant to put together a scope for design with two alternatives. One would be to enclose the channel underground, and the other would be to recreate the V-shaped channel that was once there. Both have their pros and cons, and our intentions are to meet with all the individual property owners to discuss the impacts to their property from improving this area. So our next steps would be to bring a design contract to a future council meeting for approval. We plan to have neighborhood meetings and possibly individual meetings with impacted homeowners. The design will include two options, one for an underground system and the other to recreate the original V-shaped channel. We will also replace the sanitary sewer, and we do have design in the current year budget out of the DUD fund for $100,000. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So one of the two options is going to be an underground conveyance system?
Correct.
Kevin?
First thing that just leaps out of there is that, you mentioned the structures and things like that. We're talking about removal of those structures
Correct. So yes, well, we feel, just first glance at it, we would meet with those impacted owners that have those things in the way and discuss options of how we can get those moved out of the way. Having an underground system might, just off the top of our head, might be the easiest way to go, because if we do the V-shaped channel, we would have to regrade further back into their yard, which would limit and remove the amount of yard that they have. And so, but yes, we would meet with each individual homeowner and discuss with them the options of relocating those structures.
Mark?
So we saw some retaining walls there. If they're outside of our easement, are we leaving them alone?
Correct, yes. The majority of those retaining walls are right on the easement line. That's when they were developed. And so in order to do the project, more than likely most of those retaining walls would have to be relocated or removed. And the two options, if we enclose it, the majority of those retaining walls will go away, because we'll be able to cover it up and those walls are no longer needed. We feel the big, more expensive option would be the reshaping the channel, because then we would have to rebuild walls, the majority of the length, and that's an unknown number of walls. And so we haven't got into design. Like I said, we'll come to a future meeting with the design, and once we get into the survey and then the design options, we'll have a better feel. But our gut reaction, gut feeling is that the enclosed system would be the better option.
So we're talking like a 48-inch?
Probably a 42 plastic pipe. So yeah, plastic pipe, the HDPE, easier to access back there.
Could you go to the photo of that one? So on the right-hand side, where is the V basically going up to the side?
Yeah, about
of the back porch?
About the edge of that concrete pad right there is about where the easement line is. That's about 10 feet from that point to the center line of that fence. And then you would do 10 feet on the other side of that fence is about where that garden is.
Okay, thank you. Now this is G3?
G3.
And we just finished G5. Six. Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything else? I'm looking forward to seeing what the recommendation is going to be. This is going to be this is not going to be fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don.
One quick question before you, how many houses are we talking about?
There's no, sorry, that's a different project. There's about 70 total.
70,
Yeah,
okay.
from both sides.
Just curious how many conversations you're gonna have to have.
There'll be quite a bit, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item D is discussion regarding the process of designating a mayor pro tem and city council committee assignments. Let's start with the council organizational liaison assignments. Here's the current list of what everybody signed up for? And this one can be really, really easy. If no one has a desire to change, we can just keep it as is. If you've got a desire to change, then we can certainly go through the prioritizing.
I'm happy where I am.
Anybody? Don?
I'm happy where I am on this one. Should the Coppell Arts Foundation, should that be, is that for this list? Okay. I'm good with the one I have.
No.
Okay.
All right, well, that was quick.
Everybody's good? You good?
He was whispering in my ear from the get-go saying he was good.
I just didn't hear him.
He was talking softly.
Carrying a big stick.
If anybody seriously, if anybody has a desired change, we'll be happy to go through it, but everybody seems pretty comfortable in their assignments, I thought. Yep. Oh, Bijou, I did have one question. The MetroCrest Hospital Authority,
I don't know what it is.
well, you signed up for it at one point. We're not even sure that they actually have regular meetings.
They used to a long,
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah, it's been years since they've
But I
had.
don't know that they do anymore.
And what happened was they reached out, if y'all remember however many months ago, they reached out and said, hey, we'd like to have a person, and I think that's when you said, okay. But we don't get noticed of any kind of meetings. We provided them the information.
And nobody contacted me.
Yeah,
Let
I-
me know what's going
Oh, I
on.
don't
Okay.
know.
I'll put a note, I'll follow up tomorrow
Okay.
and just say, hey, what's up? I don't even know if they have, I'm sure they have an annual meeting, because every foundation has to have some type of annual meeting.
Or at least an email
You missed all
newsletter.
those meetings.
Yeah.
I don't see any.
They've had them.
So they had their presentation, I don't know if you went over, they had their presentation about 2 months ago on mental health. They're participating in kind of a needs assessment, and,
Oh, they're the ones that came and spoke to us.
no, it's a different
Oh,
group.
that was a different.
There's a
sorry.
lot of people doing mental health
Mental
needs
Yeah,
assessments.
that's from the
right there.
Denton Country.
Everybody
Yeah,
needs it.
right, but they're
Everybody
doing
has it.
something
Yeah,
as well.
they are not Metro Hospital.
Yeah. Okay, second part of this is selection of a mayor pro tem. According to the city charter, the mayor pro tem should be a council member elected by the city council at the first regular city council meeting following either each regular city election or runoff election if such occurs. That is the guidance that our charter gives us. So it's
It's
basically.
as clear as mud.
So it's basically up to this group to decide how and who you want to nominate.
This would be at the 24th meeting.
Yeah, this will be in 2 weeks at the 24th, thank you. I've got list of the previous mayor pro tems dating back to 1989. There has always been some talk about a sequence, and quite honestly, looking at this, I don't see it. You're welcome. I didn't make multiple copies, but Ashley and Sarah were nice enough to provide a copy, so I'm open to suggestions. Mark served his 2 years during COVID.
You're the COVID mayor pro tem.
That's right.
Like that COVID mayor pro tem, the title right in front of it, I'm sure that's.
Brianna is currently the mayor pro tem. The last time she served as mayor pro tem was in 2007. So
Oh,
you
there
were
you go. I thought it
wondering
was 5.
how long that was.
I
So,
thought it was 2008.
Isn't Bishu next?
Yeah, that's what I was told last time.
Bishu's next, right?
well, it's up to this group. There doesn't appear to be a sequence that has been followed.
I thought last
Well,
time
I
you said it was like a.
Well, there was a
This-
sequence for,
yeah.
since 2014, I know for sure.
Before that, there was not.
I guess so.
I just feel like I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like every year, for the years that I've been here, some years I wasn't, but there's always, I think we always just say, do we want, do we continue, do we not? I think things have happened, like with you, Mark. I think Bob Mahalik served Well, he ended up being mayor, things going on. And then I think, other than that, I don't know, it just comes up for discussion.
Well, I'm willing to serve.
So, that's why I thought you guys had the system.
That's what last 4 years that I've been serving.
Kevin?
Just a quick question, what are the, might be good to just kind of make sure everybody knows, what is the role and responsibilities involved with, oh, you happen to have a piece of paper there, don't you?
I didn't read it. It's actually part of the same section. It says, "The mayor pro tem shall act as mayor during the disability or absence of the mayor, and in this capacity shall have the rights conferred upon the mayor."
So if the mayor is unable to perform his or her duties,
The mayor pro tem steps in. And the mayor pro tem does still have the vote as a member of the committee, council.
Interesting.
And, sorry, real quick, and then otherwise it's what is it, is the longest serving person, like we go and some stuff, like whoever's been on council, I don't know how.
I don't either, because I know that when I was elected in 2012, Aaron Duncan was elected and Gary Roden was elected, they went back up to the most senior member of the council because they didn't want the three of us.
Someone new people, yeah.
Yeah, and which I agree with.
Oh, so there was a shift then, that's right.
There was a shift,
That's right, that's right.
but
That was a nice step.
following the sequence, everybody here that's been on council more than a year has served, with the exception of Bijou.
Oh, so Cliff's already been,
Mm-hmm.
so it would be Bijou next, and then
John.
John, okay.
And then if you follow Gary Roden's criteria, Kevin would be next and then Don last.
just want to make sure everybody knew that.
What?
I'm okay
Oh, you're last?
Well, there was a little runoff that interfered with Gary and
No,
the
understood.
next person in line.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how that all played out.
All right, well, all it takes, Kevin?
Oh,
I thought you raised your.
no,
Don?
I'm thinking.
Well, I guess I'll throw it out there just because before I came in here, I guess I was just thinking, I actually was gonna suggest Cliff do it, quite frankly. And just, I feel like he has been a good mentor to some of us that have come in relatively recently. And he's sort of like E.F. Hutton, right? So everybody, he speaks
He has
up.
what rights?
He's like E.F. Hutton.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
He speaks, people listen, and so, I don't know, I mean, if we're just throwing out names or, having a discussion, that's what I was gonna suggest or recommend. It's served for 84 years or something,
Seems
9 years.
a little.
Seems a lot longer than that.
Anyway, I mean, I'm open to whatever the council wants to do, and just, since we're having an open discussion about it, that's my thought.
I'm really for the system that we had been following. Now, of course, that was when Karen was mayor, that it was, that we just took turns, and when we three came in, it went by who got the most votes, and it was Cliff, and then it was Nancy, then it was me. And then so the next one should be Bijou, and I'm all for
Who
that.
was after you? Sorry, it was who, and then you? Sorry.
It was Cliff, Nancy,
Oh, Nancy, sorry.
Yeah.
I missed Nancy.
and then me.
Oh, based on number of votes, okay.
But it beat, nothing against you, Cliff. I support you 100%, but I think it ought to be Bijou's turn since you've already.
Well, I'm not gonna like you anymore.
Okay, so
You want it?
there will be an
Did you have
agenda, there will be an agenda item on the next council meeting, and it will be looking for a motion and a nomination. It's a motion to appoint someone as mayor pro tem. So it'll be up to you guys to make that motion, somebody, and a second, a vote. Cliff?
Do we want to codify this?
I'd love to.
24th meeting, and so we can, so we
Well,
don't have to do this?
the only trouble, and I've given this a lot of thought, if you were going to codify it and say the next person in seniority that has not served as mayor pro tem, then you could very easily end up with a newly elected council member that had absolutely no experience on the council. And if that person were to be put in the position of mayor, you'd have absolutely no background.
We'll just have that guide write up an agreement that handles that situation.
It's in the charter, is that correct? Yes, it's in the charter, so we would have to have an election. For
If you had a
charter
charter provision, I assume that council could maybe enact an ordinance under that charter provision, because it just says they'll select, there's nothing in there. So if they codify that by putting an ordinance in place, I think they can get away with that.
So a guideline is different than an ordinance. So do we want an ordinance or do we want a guideline?
They have equal.
We can go like
No,
rounds.
an ordinance is, we can't violate it. A guideline you could take exception to.
I mean,
I guess I'd really do a guideline.
what if the next person in line
Decline.
doesn't want it? That would be my concern about that is that, or, you know.
Or they don't get enough votes.
Yeah. Yeah, or they feel like they wouldn't do well at it, yeah, or everybody's like,
Right.
nah.
I mean, I don't know. A lot of times we leave here thinking all the same thing, and we go out there and the vote's different, so we just don't know.
Yeah.
Or the person doesn't want to serve, yeah.
What if we asked Bob to come up with a guideline for selection?
And, sorry, just real quick, the reason too on guideline is because like who knew about COVID, right? And so it just made sense for you to stay on because of the current situation we were in. And things just happen. I think
Caroline's fine.
the same thing happened with when we had Bobaholic. And then like I think like you said, when you were first elected or whatever it was, that during that time period, things shifted because, you know, maybe people were prepared or not prepared to be mayor pro tem. Not that we're saying you're not prepared. You too, especially you because you're the new.
I'm 30 days more prepared than you.
And don't forget it.
So in the past, and I don't know, has I know that there. When did you say the system has kind of been in place since, or this guideline? You know, whatever.
2014 that I know of.
It basically started in 2012.
2012. What, I mean, was there, do you know of, was there any systems before then? Was it somebody threw their name in the hat?
Yeah,
Was it?
we did it the same way before 2012.
No, not really.
Okay, I was elected in 05.
Yeah.
And I do remember that we looked to see who was, and that's why I ended up serving in 2007, was because of who had already served and who was next based on the election.
Yeah, it was changed after the previous mayor,
Oh, gotcha. After Bob served.
after
as
Bob
mayor.
served.
And then we've always had, like, kind of like we talk about boards and commissions, and do we interview them or do we not, and all of that, like, every year this comes up. Do we change it? Do we not? Do we keep? We just go through that route.
So there was a little jump after Bob.
Gotcha, understood. And a lot of that.
All right, we're set.
All right, thank you. We will have the motion, or the agenda item will be on the agenda next time. And sometime in the next, before we have to discuss this again, we'll come back with some guidelines for further discussion. The time is 7:08. We are adjourned from work session, and we will move into the council chambers for regular session at 7:30. See, 1, 2, 3, 4,
There's
5.
Brianna
Six.
is, oh, she's right there.
Where?
She's.
Council, this is your 2-minute warning.
So I like to have all my documentation ready.
Don Carroll, calling Don Carroll.
Experience, he would have known not to do
Cliff Long, Councilmember Cliff Long.
Howdy, everybody. Thank you for being with us tonight. The time is 7:31 p.m. We're going to move into the regular session of the Coppell City Council. Just as a reminder, any persons wishing to speak during our citizens' appearance or the public hearings must sign the appropriate registers outside the council chambers and list your residence address. For our opening tonight, Pastor Beth Kellner from the First United Methodist Church is here to give the invocation, and then we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise and remain standing. Pastor Beth.
Loving God, gathered here this evening, we give you thanks for all the rich and wonderful blessings we have received from your hand. Blessings of this day, blessings of life, of friendships, the blessing to do the work you have set before us. Grant that those who do the work of this community, our mayor, our council, those who have gathered to participate in this time together, grant that they all may have the wisdom needed to hear the needs of our city. Grant them the wisdom to act with justice. Let them hear your word as they discern how to guide and how to lead. Continue to pour your blessings down on this community, particularly on these who serve. Bless them and their families. May they all know your peace in their lives. May they know joy in this task. We lift all of this to you in the name of your precious Son. Amen.
Item number 5 is our citizens' appearance. Persons wishing to speak must sign the register and list their residence address. Each speaker must state his or her name and their address. Presentations by individuals shall be limited to 2 minutes each. An individual speaker time may be extended for an additional 2 minutes with the approval of the majority of the council members present. Persons signed up to speak will be called in the order they signed up. No personal attacks by any speaker shall be made against any member of the council, the mayor, individual, group, or corporation. There will be no comments or deliberation from the city council due to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Once the timer sounds at 2 minutes, the city secretary will cut in and make the request to the mayor and the council if they would like to extend the speaker's time for an additional 2 minutes. Tonight we have 4 people signed up to speak. The first one. Okay, yeah, got it. So I have a number of people that have signed up to speak for the citizens' appearance. If your intent was to sign up to speak for the public hearing, we have 2 public hearings tonight. Just let me know when I call out your name, because these are for the open citizens' appearance. The first person that did sign up was Linda Barnett.
Yes, and I'm here for the Sherwood Park.
Okay, that's a public hearing, so I will get you down later when that comes up.
Sure.
Okay, second on the list is Mark Smits.
I'm here to say thank you.
Please come, please come.
Please state your name and residence.
Okay.
My name is Mark Smits, and I live at 102 Westwind Drive. And I'm here tonight to talk about the first event that we had, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, Coppell Connects. Specifically, I want to say thank you. I especially want to say thank you to Mike Land, Mindy Hurley, and Katie Crawford. Less than 9 months ago, we first started talking to the city about having this event, which we thought would be perfect for the city of Coppell. And I'm here to report that the expectations that we had at the time that we first discussed this were far exceeded. We had over 120 volunteers, and we worked on over 30 projects. And so it was an outstanding success, and something that we hope to replicate next year. So once again, I'd like to say thank you to the city for putting their shoulder behind this. It was a tremendous event, and it's perfect for the city of Coppell. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person I have on the list is Lucero Cortez. Looks like you're signed up to speak for the Sherwood Park. That is a public hearing, so we'll go to the next one. I believe that's George Cooper. Is that also for the item number 13? That's a public hearing. All right. Next person is, I'm going to get the last name wrong, and I apologize, Kay McGill. Okay, Kay is also speaking on a public hearing. And then the last one was Dennis McGill, also on. All right, we'll get you during items number 13. That is all of the citizens' appearance we have. So next on the list is our proclamations. All right, item number 6 is concerning Water Safety Month, and I believe Trinity Klepzig and other members of the staff are here. So would y'all please come forward? And I'm sorry, I probably got your last name wrong. You got it right. Council, for your consideration. Whereas citizens of Coppell recognize the vital role that swimming and aquatic-related activities relate to good physical and mental health and enhance the quality of life for all people, and whereas the citizens of Coppell understand the essential role that education regarding the topic of water safety plays in preventing drowning and recreational water-related injuries, and whereas the city of Coppell is aware of the contributions made by the recreational water industry in developing safe swimming facilities, aquatic programs, home pools and spas, and related activities providing healthy places to recreate, learn and grow, confidence and sense of self-worth, which contributes to the quality of life in our community. And whereas the citizens of Coppell recognize the ongoing efforts and commitments to educate the public on pool and spa safety issues, and whereas Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, has proclaimed May to be Water Safety Month, and whereas the citizens of Coppell understand the vital importance of communicating water safety rules and programs to individuals of all ages, whether owners of private pools, users of public swimming facilities, or visitors to water parks. Now, therefore, I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the City of Coppell, do hereby proclaim the month of May as National Water Safety Month. In witness thereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Coppell to be affixed this 10th day of May, 2022. Council? Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Agenda Item 6, celebrating the month of May as National Water Safety Month.
Councilmember Carroll, second. All in favor?
Long and Ahosa Smith, Carol Nevels, John Matthew Hill, all in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. I am guessing you might have a little something to say.
Hello, I'm Trinity Klepzig. I'm the aquatics supervisor over at the Corps. I'm really excited that we've got the month of May as National Water Safety Month. As you can see, we've got Margot here. You'll see Margot at some of our events. Margot the manatee. may show up. But for the month of May, we've got a scavenger hunt. So you'll find Otto the octopus, who you'll see on these shirts. We've got a couple places, 5 places around the city where you can go and find Otto. It's a super fun scavenger hunt. We've got a couple hints up on our Facebook and Instagram pages. Once you find our first one, you can find all the rest of them. All the riddles will lead to the next one. We've got some fun prizes. One of our prizes includes tickets for a family of 4 to the Dallas World Aquarium. So we really hope you'll join us on this super fun scavenger hunt in the city. We also look forward to having some water safety welcome packets so that people can learn to be educated in the future in their own backyard pools, other open water areas around the city. So thank you.
Here you go.
Oh, thank you.
Sure. Okay, little sales pitch coming up here.
Yes. So we at the Corps, obviously, we have an indoor and an outdoor pool. We are hiring for the summer. We are not currently fully staffed yet, but we are hoping to continue hiring. So if you've got anyone 16 and up, all the way up, if you are interested in being a summer lifeguard or a swim instructor, come on down, apply. It's a super fun place to work. We've got some of our guards up here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You can't see what I'm doing. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 7 is a proclamation for National Public Works Week. Mr. Collins and crew. Council for your consideration. Whereas Public Works employees design, construct, operate, and maintain infrastructure, facilities, and equipment that are of vital importance to the health, safety, and welfare and high quality of life of the citizens of Coppell, and whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and equipment could not be provided without the dedicated service, teamwork, and innovation of Public Works employees, and whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and business leaders to gain knowledge and to maintain an interest in public works. And whereas this year, 2022, marks the 62nd annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now therefore, I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the City of Coppell, do hereby proclaim May 15th through 21st as National Public Works Week. In the City of Coppell, and I encourage all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and the City of Coppell in support of our Public Works employees and to recognize the substantial contributions they make while providing and protecting our health, safety, welfare, and quality of life. A witness thereof have set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed this 10th day of May, 2022. Council. Mayor Pro Tem Brianna Hinojosa-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the proclamation designating the week of May 15th through 21st, 2022 as National Public Works Week and authorizing the mayor to sign.
We have a second from Councilmember Carroll. All in favor?
Long and Hinojosa Smith, Carol Nevels, John Matthew Hill, all in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Mr. Collins, do you have a few words to say?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for the proclamation, the recognition next week as National Public Works Week here in Coppell. Few introductions. I'm Kent Collins, Director of Public Works. With me, I've got some of the leadership team for the Public Works Department, Kira Jansen, Jamie Briarton, Kumar Gali, Steve Shore. In Public Works in Coppell, we cover everything from engineering to streets to facilities to fleet maintenance, traffic. So pretty much anything that you encounter in your daily life, if it goes well or you don't notice it, that means that we're doing our job. So a good day for us is that you just get to go about your day and nothing goes wrong on your way to work, on your way home. You take your shower, you do your morning routine, and you have safe water to drink, and you get to work and safely and home safely. So as the mayor mentioned, this is the 62nd National Public Work Week. And the theme this year, each year the APWA adopts a theme for the week, and this year it is ready and resilient. And so when you think about those two words, it describes the folks who make up the Public Works team. We try to make sure that we're ready for whatever comes at us, whether it's a winter storm or bad weather or just a normal day where it's hot and we need to deliver a lot of water. And that we're resilient, so that we're ready to get up whenever something happens and deliver the services that you need. And then it's our job to make sure that the infrastructure we provide is ready when you need it, and that it is resilient if we have bad weather or we have a storm. So next week we'll be celebrating. Coming out of COVID, it sort of threw us off our plan, which was to have this more of a community-facing week. So next week we're going to be celebrating more on an internal basis, doing kind of small events Monday through Wednesday. And then Thursday we'll have a luncheon. Council, city manager's office invited down to celebrate with us. And really we're just recognizing the work that all of our team does on a daily basis to make sure that the residents and the businesses in Coppell get the services that you need at the level that you need it. So with that, thank you again for the proclamation and the recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8 is a proclamation for Storm Ready, and Chief Kevin Richardson and some of his crew are going to come down. I'm good. How are you? How about right there?
Perfect.
Council, for your consideration. Whereas nearly 90% of all presidentially declared disasters are weather-related, leading to about 500 deaths per year and nearly $14 billion in damage, and where it is imperative that all individuals and communities work together to develop preparedness plans which can help minimize the impact of disaster in Coppell and beyond, and whereas the National Weather Service created Storm Ready, a nationwide program that helps communities better protect their citizens during severe weather from tornadoes to tsunamis, whereas the Storm Ready program encourages communities to take a proactive approach to improving local hazardous weather operations, and whereas Storm Ready provides emergency managers with clear-cut guidelines on how to improve their hazardous weather operations, whereas on April 5th, 2022, the National Weather Service recognized the city of Coppell as Storm Ready, meeting guidelines established by the NWS in partnership with federal, state, and local emergency management professionals. Now, therefore, I, Wes Mays, as mayor of the city of Coppell, do hereby recognize the city of Coppell as Storm Ready, as indicated by the National Weather Service, and encourage all families and businesses in the city of Coppell to continue to take a proactive approach to maintaining local hazardous weather preparedness. In witness thereof, I've set my hand and signature the seal of the city of Coppell this 10th day of May, 2022. Councilmember Hill.
I would like to make a motion proclaiming the city of Coppell as a storm-ready community and by the National Weather Service, and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Mayor Pro Tem Brianna Hinojosa-Smith, a second. All in favor?
Long and Hinojosa Smith, Carol Nevels, John Matthew Hill, all in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Chief, your proclamation. Thank you, sir. And you have a few words to say?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin Richardson. I have the honor of serving as the fire chief, and we're here tonight to share some really good news with you. Within the fire department is our Division of Emergency Management, and part of that is what we believe in is an all-hazards approach to dealing with emergencies and disasters. Our emergency management coordinator, Jennifer Bettis, is here tonight to share with you this voluntary program that we went through to enhance our services and to ensure our citizens that we are storm ready. Now, I will say we typically go through the proclamations and kind of try to wordsmith it down. I missed the word tsunami. We should have took that one out. But besides that, I think we're prepared for everything else.
All right, thank you, Chief. I think Kent summed up my speech or my little sentences with ready and resilient. I had prepared and resilient. The city of Coppell in North Texas is no stranger to strong storms and potentially damaging storms. In my 3 months here, we've already had a tornado warning and several storms. The Storm Ready program is a partnership with the National Weather Service, partnership with local communities, and in that, we have to promote public readiness, have systems in place to monitor weather, and plans in place to react. And in the short time that I've been here, I can tell you that Coppell is storm ready, and I'm excited to be here and hope that we can continue to strengthen those plans and procedures.
So with that recognition comes we're eligible to hang a street sign if we'd like to at the entrances of our community, letting everybody know that we are storm ready. So can you turn around and show it to them real quick? There you go. Good. Like Vanna, yeah. Good. Good. Yeah, so we'll take a picture. Scoot up a little bit. Scoot in. Scoot in for the picture. Waiting on our photographer.
And while they're taking pictures, by the way, it wasn't just tsunami, it was tornadoes to tsunamis. Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Are we done? Thank you very much. Chief. That was mine. Oh, you're still here. Okay, item number 9 is consider approval of proclamation for the week of next week is Emergency Medical Services Week. And Chief Richardson and Captain Spencer, thank you very much. Council, for your consideration. Whereas emergency medical services are a vital public service and is provided by the Coppell Fire Department, whereas the members of the Coppell Fire Department are ready to provide advanced life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of the emergency medical services teams engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas it is important to recognize the value of the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Therefore, I, Wes May, as mayor of the city of Coppell, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th to 21st as Emergency Medical Services Week. Within the EMS Strong theme, EMS Week, Rising to the Challenge, I encourage the community to observe this week with the appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In witness thereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed this 10th day of May, 2022. Oh, hang on. Council, for your Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the proclamation, consider the approval of the proclamation designing the week of May 15, 21, 2022, Emergency Medical Service Week, and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Second from Councilmember Nevels. All in favor?
Long and Nahosa Smith, Carol Nevels, John Matthew Hill, all in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Chief.
All right, thank you very much for recognizing Emergency Medical Services Week. I'll give you a little bit of background. Emergency Medical Services Week is celebrated across the United States once a week, this time every year. And the idea is to celebrate with your EMS professionals, and here in Coppell, that's run by the fire department. All of our firefighters are also the paramedics, and we handle transport EMS as well. But what we want to focus on is the education piece. And so typically during this week, we like to celebrate and enhance the education piece. And I want to familiarize everybody with the Life Safety Park. There's a whole slew of classes that we have going on. Throughout the summer, we encourage everybody to sign up for the summer camps, whether it's first aid, CPR, babysitter classes, summer safety, water safety, just to name a few. We really, really want to embrace the public education component. I have tonight with us our coordinator of our emergency medical services. He provides leadership for our entire services, Captain Ryan Spencer. He's going to talk a little bit about the EMS program.
Good evening, Council. My name is Ryan Spencer. I've been with our department for almost 17 years now. And in that time, I've seen our EMS service grow to a very respected service within the Metroplex, full of highly trained, highly educated paramedics ready to meet our community's needs. Each year, we respond to over 4,000 calls for service, and the majority of those calls are, in fact, emergency medical services calls. And as an organization in our community, very fortunate that we send a minimum of 5 paramedics to each one of those calls. And oftentimes, it includes a critical care paramedic. And it's that level of service we're able to provide that often dictates the difference between a good outcome and a bad outcome for our community members. And obviously, that support is because of we're able to do that because of the support of our community, our council, our medical director, Dr. Sharon Malone, and the members of the organization. To what Chief spoke about at Life Safety Park, kind of like fire prevention, we're able to offer a level of preventative medicine to the community. And that's in the form of community CPR programs, community blood pressure checks, and just general education that it's our hope will prevent our community members from needing to utilize emergency medical, or if they do, gives them the tools to buy them some time until we're able to get there and help out. So very proud of the organization, very proud of the EMS service as a whole, and want to thank you for tonight and thank you for this proclamation because it's very meaningful to the members of our department.
And again, I would encourage you, if you're interested, to schedule tours at the firehouse, come visit with our paramedics or educate yourselves, or if you have a request for a public demonstration, we'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
I'm glad I got people keeping me straight. Item number 10, recognition of the Coppell Fire Department for receiving the award of Recognized Best Practices Fire Departments from the Texas Chiefs Association Best Practices Recognition Program. Chief Kevin Richardson.
So I'm here tonight to celebrate and provide some exciting information to you. Last month at the Texas Fire Chiefs Association annual conference, the city of Coppell, I was so proud to walk up there and receive their accreditation best practice standards for the 3rd time. And I know I was the only one there, but I wanted to share that with the entire community and what that means. So the Texas Fire Chiefs Association developed an accreditation standard. There's 114 standards that they think are the best things that we should be doing. And it's a lot of work to maintain them. And 9 years ago, we were the first fire department in the state of Texas to receive the accreditation standards, so we were proud of that. What's more difficult than receiving it is maintaining it, because then you have to show 3 years of proofs and get reaccredited every 3 years. So not just showing your proofs one time, you have to show it for 3 full years. This is the data, the metrics, the policies, the procedures, your performance measures, all of these things that an outside agency, a bunch of fire chiefs, are coming in to validate what we're doing here in the city of Coppell. And so this was the 3rd time for us. We're the only agency in the state of Texas that has done this 3 times in a row. So I was extremely proud. I'd like to read the plaque that they presented to me. It says, on behalf of the Texas Fire Chiefs Association, we hereby honor the Coppell Fire Department and Fire Chief Kevin Richardson in recognition of their awarded status as a recognized best practice fire department and the accreditation standards, April the 4th, 2022.
Thank you very much, Chief. I had a phone call this past week from a citizen who was complimenting our fire department and all of your people on how professional and how thorough they were, and he was just overwhelmed with the service that he had received. So I know that's just one case, but it happens over and over. Council, Mayor Pro Tem Brianna Hinojosa-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I was the only one standing there, but standing ovation, you guys do so much, and it's evident tonight, even just on the recognitions and the proclamations here, right, between emergency services, storm ready, just everything that you do to keep our community safe. You're the first responders at every incident, every situation that occurs, and I've had the pleasure and the honor of serving with you for many, many, many years. But I just want to say thank you to you for this great recognition, for you and your department, and all the people that have worked hard to, like you said, not only establish this, but also to maintain it. So thank you. I don't think we need a motion for this, do we?
There's no motion necessary
So,
here.
I just want to say thank you.
Just a big thank you.
I do want to thank everybody. It's a lot of work for all of the fire department membership. I think every member had a role in playing some kind of something in this process. Of course, the administrative team and the command staff put in all the long hours, and then for me to stand up here and be the sole guy to accept this is kind of humbling for me. And also to thank our community for their continued support, as well as our elected officials. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Item number 11 is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is routine in nature and is generally enacted in one motion. These items have been previously approved through the budget, past council actions, or other action. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available on the screen. We'll let that roll through just a minute. Council, is there any desire to pull any one item or more from the agenda? Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve item number 11A through H.
Thank you. Councilmember Long, second. All in favor?
Long and Hinojosa Smith, Carol Nevels, John Matthew Hill, all in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 12, Ms. Mary Perrone Boswell is here. I'm going to let her read the item into the record.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 12 is a public hearing. Consider approval of PD 144R TH2, a zoning change from PD 144 TH2 to PD 144R TH2 to revise the plan development to modify carport requirements for the subdivision on approximately 40 acres of land located at the southwest corner of Parkway Boulevard and Moore Road at the request of James and Sarah Goyne, being represented by Greg Goyne.
This is a public hearing, and I open the public hearing. Persons wishing to speak during the public hearing must also sign the register and list their residence address. You will be called to speak in the order you have registered. Public hearings are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. So, yeah, Mary, go ahead and make your presentation, and we'll do then the speakers will come after that.
Yes, sir. So again, my name is Mary Perrone Boswell. I'm the senior planner. So thank you for having me this evening. So why are we here? So a carport permit was applied for by a resident in a nearby subdivision and was denied for not meeting requirements. This resident then submitted addresses of existing carports, sheds, etc., to staff that they believed did not meet requirements either, which included approximately 30 carports in the Sherwood Park subdivision. Staff began sending letters to the property owners regarding the permit and regulation requirements, and if they did not have a permit or when able to obtain a permit, they would be required to take down the carport. Subsequently, the neighbors approached staff wanting to know how to proceed in requesting to have the carports allowed. Over half of the 264 properties of the subdivision signed a petition to request an amendment to their PD regulations. The residents would like to maintain the benefits of having a carport, which they've cited as protection from the elements, shielding residents from the weather, especially for those needing handicap accessibility, and as a result, it would incentivize more off-street parking. So a little bit of history. The Sherwood Park subdivision was platted in the mid-1980s. Phase 1 fronted Parkway Boulevard. Phase 2 was south of that and terminated with Grace Lane. These are duplexes, so 2 houses attached, and have a 1-car garage per residence. Many of the existing carports were constructed 20 plus years ago, and the homes have changed hands multiple times since then. The current parking requirements, if you were to construct a new house, would be a 2-car garage for a single-family residential. These homes have a 1-car garage. The homes are a rear entry product, meaning that the garages are located at the rear of the lot with access from an alley. The current ordinance requirements for this subdivision is a 20-foot rear setback for any off-street parking area or structure. The average actual rear setback is about 25 feet, not enough room to construct a parking structure that complies with a 20-foot setback on most of these lots. So is this something new? You know, we did some research. Staff analyzed the Woodridge subdivision, which is located at Sandy Lake and MacArthur, which is somewhat similar in nature. It's a TH1. Those were built with no garages. They came back in 1996 and with their PD actually provided regulations to have carports with a reduced setback that was not the 20 feet. So the applicants from Sherwood Park are requesting an amendment to the PD conditions that would allow for reduced setback requirements for existing and proposed carports. The first step in this process, if the zoning is approved, is to apply for a permit and have a structural engineer evaluate the existing carport structure. So here you can just see some images of existing carport structures within that subdivision. And these are just some examples of existing double carports also within that subdivision. In terms of side yard setbacks, they do meet the requirements. So they have anywhere from about a 15 or larger side yard where only a 10-foot is required. So we did send out notices, 314 within 200 feet. In terms of paper responses or replies, we did receive 20 in favor, 1 opposed. We did send out additional notices within the 800 feet, 392, 1 in favor, 3 with no comment. And I just want to remind you that we did receive 134 of the residents did provide a signed petition in favor of this request. So we did go before the Planning and Zoning Commission. They did recommend approval of the PD amendment with the following conditions. 1, carport shall only be allowed in the rear of the property and accessed by an alley. 2, carports must be open on a minimum of 3 sides. 3, if one continuous carport is proposed across 2 properties, then an agreement will be required to be signed and filed at the county, speaking to the maintenance responsibilities of the carport. This agreement would run with the property. 4, if the property is located entirely on 1 lot, the supporting columns shall be located on the subject property only. 5, the surface under the carport shall be paved with concrete. 6, a minimum 10-foot side yard setback shall be required for the carport support structures, except at the shared common property line of the residential structure. The roof overhang cannot extend over the property line. Number 7, materials for the carport structure will include wood and metal. Any exposed wood will need to be wood that is naturally durable, insect and rot resistant. Metal includes steel poles. Posts may be wrapped with stone or brick if desired. Number 9, roof materials can include standing seam metal roofs or similar that is rust resistant. Composite shingles or other acceptable roofing material, example clay tiles. Number 10, solar panels on the carports may be allowed if they meet all solar permit criteria, and a separate permit and inspection for the solar panels will be required. 11, if the zoning is approved, the existing carports will need to apply for a permit and have a structural engineer evaluate the compliance of the structure with the currently adopted codes. 12, the carport structure shall not extend past the rear property line. 13, the carport cannot extend higher than the roof line of the residential dwelling unit. 14, no storage shall be visible from the carport from any public area, which excludes trash receptacles. 15, the PD shall have no effect on HOA recorded deed restrictions or bylaws. So the next steps, if the PD amendment is granted, then the residents with an existing carport will have 120 days to submit a complete application for a permit, which includes a structural engineer report. If during the permitting process there is work that can be done to bring the structure into compliance, we will work with the applicant to do so in a timely manner according to the permit timeframes. If they fail to submit a complete application in that 120-day timeframe, code enforcement will begin proceedings to have the structure removed. If the permit is denied for an existing carport, they would have 30 days to remove the structure. That is the end of my presentation. I'm available for questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Councilmember Hill.
So how complex is this application for a permit? Is it pretty straightforward? And would you be willing to assist the residents in getting it completed?
Definitely, we always help our residents with the application process. The main function for this is really to have a structural engineer tell us that it's safe, because that is our main concern.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you so much for the report. We appreciate that. I had a citizen email, had a specific question about the storage of trash receptacles. I just wanted to restate that number 14 on your report does include the fact that you can store your trash receptacles
Right.
in under the carport. That is correct.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to restate that for that particular citizen. So thank you very much for confirming that.
Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Boswell, thank you so much for the presentation, but do you know if there's any current existing carport that would not pass the permit or get the permit if they apply for it?
Well, we haven't, I'm not an engineer.
Sure.
I haven't played one on TV either. But I would assume that there probably are a few that would not pass at first blush. Either they would need some type of work or they would have to come down altogether.
Okay. And
But this is the path forward for them to proceed towards that.
Okay. And the structural engineer evaluation, is that the city structural engineer or their own?
They would have to hire a structural engineer. We do not have a structural engineer, to my knowledge, on staff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Councilmember John. That was going to be my question, so thank you. Council, any other questions? All right, thank you very much. This is a public hearing, and we have had about a dozen people sign up to speak. We have the option, everyone that signed up to speak is in favor of this. So if the group, each of you are obviously free to come speak as part of the public hearing, or you can ask or appoint a couple of people to come speak on your behalf. It is completely up to you. I will call the first person on the list, and that's Linda Barnett. Mr. Goyne, yes. But, oh, you are the, oh, I'm sorry. We do have comments by the applicant. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the time. First question I'd like to ask council and you, Mr. Mayor, is how would you feel if you got home tonight and found a letter informing you that part of the house you bought over 15 years ago was illegal and had to be demolished? Well, that's exactly what happened to my parents in their carport last August, plus about 29 other people in Sherwood Park. So these are carports that have existed in plain sight, in most cases for 20 years or more, and never received a citation, even after inspectors came numerous times to inspect other things like new roofs or water heaters or construction projects. And homes have been bought and sold during that time, so assumably inspections were done with that as well. These are carports that some homeowners reportedly were told they didn't need a permit for back in the day. Now, this is before any city staff. In fact, we established in the P&Z meeting that Mary was in high school at this time. So, it's definitely not current city staff. Some homeowners were told they were grandfathered in. They didn't need a permit. Or they were told to put them up over the weekend because they wouldn't be checked. And these are carports that have stood the test of time, provided extra off-street parking for homes that have mostly had one-car garages, provided protection from the elements, kept cars off the street, and just made life a little easier for some of Coppell's seniors as they come and go. And these are the carports that had to come down, according to the letter they received in August. So that's the bad news. The good news is, city staff introduced us to a path forward. With enough support from the neighborhood, we could apply for a zoning change that would allow carports in the neighborhood. And honestly, this approach has brought neighbors together. They went out pounding the pavement, introduced themselves, and talked about the benefits of allowing carports in the area. And working together, they gathered the requisite 134 signed petitions, which represents over 50% of the property owners in Sherwood Park. All good things, in addition to the benefits of having a carport. So just to recap, the benefits of carports are extra off-street parking for smaller homes with one-car garages, protection from sun, hail, and other inclement weather. They're off the rear alley, so virtually all of them are hidden from sight. It makes Coppell senior friendly, and we know that's on strategy with Vision 2040. And last, according to one homeowner who spoke at the P&Z meeting, I thought this was interesting. She learned when she tried to protest her property tax increase and used other homes in the neighborhood as comps that her home was valued higher because of her carport. So we have proof that carports increase home values, which results in higher taxes and puts more in city coffers. So who's going to vote against that, right? So it's a win-win, which kind of brings us to why we're here tonight. We have submitted a zoning application to allow carports in Sherwood Park with the stipulations that Mary outlined. So one of the things, it's not on this slide, but on number 11, we do understand that for those with pre-existing carports, homeowners would have to apply for a permit and get a structural engineer to come inspect the carport and affirm that it meets code. Obviously, this carries a cost. You guys brought that up in your questions to Mary. And we don't know exactly what that will cost, and we're hopeful that we can gang a bunch of these up and negotiate a volume discount with some engineering firm. On the other hand, we do know that a Coppell permit will cost between $100 and $200 each. So I would ask the City Council to consider two small amendments to what we talked about. One is all permit fees be waived for any pre-existing carports as a sign of goodwill and partnership for the citizens involved, especially those senior citizens on fixed incomes. And second, unlike what was presented, I would request that you allow at least 12 months for these 30 homeowners to comply, because they're going to have engineering inspection completed and all and possibly work done to their carports. And these citizens should be allowed ample time to budget and pay for any such changes, including those that may need to be demolished if they can't be improved. That's my presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Council, since Mr. Goin is the applicant, you do have the opportunity to ask him questions. Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Goin, thank you for your, I guess, the remarks. And I know you have worked with the staff, but have you had a chance to talk to a structural engineer regarding the cost of this at all? To just evaluate it all?
I have not.
So no idea as to what the cost will be?
No.
Okay. That's a question I had.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, so we do have a list of people that have signed up to speak, and I apologize to Ms. Barnett there. Ms. Barnett, state your name and address, please.
Linda Barnett. I live at 204 Lodge Road. I moved to Coppell 42 years ago. There was 2,000 people in this town, and we would drive from the colony because I worked in Irving, and we would drive from the colony to go to work in Irving, and the road back then was 2-lane, and I said, I want a house in this town. And so there were horses at the Dairy Queen. That's what it was like then. And so I've had the pleasure of being every edition, watch every stick of home grow up here in this town. And I've got a little history that nobody knows. These are garden homes. They are not duplexes. So I need to make that straight because that's the way they were sold. And in fact, my mother was going to buy one, and this was in 1982. Well, she drove a Coupe de Ville, and it would not fit in the garage. So whoever, and I know the plant, I can't think of the guy's name, for so many years did such a wonderful, our structural engineer did such a wonderful job all these years, but they kind of missed it on this edition. You can't get a car in the garage. Some of the garages are smaller. My house has a little bit more space inside, 1,400 square feet, but the garage, I can't get a car in. If you did, you got to climb through the sunroof. So it's just reality. So I'm in favor of it. Now, one thing I want to tell y'all, because I'm just going to say it straight. When they started doing putting up because there was a mistake. We needed 2-car garage. We have no closet space in a little bitty old house, just to be honest. So people started putting them up. And the city kind of realized that there wasn't any room anywhere. Nobody could park there. They couldn't even drive in unless you had a little bitty Honda. And then you would maybe get out on one side. But that's how small they are. And so that's something that I'm so glad it's there. Me and I have a special needs grandchild that I do want to say real quick. She has seizures ever since she's been born, and we treat her every day. And the fire department and the EMTs, they know my house well. And everybody from all over town comes when we got a call. And we could not have a better city fire department or anything. And I just wanted to it was my turn to speak. And one other thing, my friend moved in And y'all will remember, well, you might not be old enough to remember these days, but I do. That was when you bought a house, it was 15% interest. And so what they did to make it feasible for anybody to move into a house, they did the ARM loans. And they did them for 4 or 5 years, and then after 5 years, everybody left because the interest rate went so high. And the good thing was it was a great investment to buy then, 5 years later. So my house was built in 96, and I'm on Lodge, and it was the last ones to be built. But they're very beautiful. I'm going to live there. My kids are going to live there because I got a special needs. The house is paid for, and the thing is, we don't have anything else for them to live in when I die. And my kids grew up in this town, and my grandkids, and so it couldn't be a better city. No complaints, but we sure would appreciate you. I guess I'm confused on the structural. Maybe they're talking about
Ms. Barnett?
Ones that are already.
That would be 5 minutes if you don't mind concluding your
okay.
statement.
Yeah. Can I ask one question? Is structural engineer for the ones that are already there? So we don't have to hire a structural engineer to put up a carport, right?
Right.
For someone, if we don't have one.
Correct. You'd have to.
Yeah, we have to go by compliance. Okay, that was my only question, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Second on the list is Greg Goin. All right. And next is Sally Goin. All right. Moving on down, I believe the name is Deb Pineda.
It's Panic, but I don't need to speak.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that. Sandra Johnson.
Here.
Would you like to come say anything? Please give your name and address for the record.
Sandra Johnson, 559 Kirkland Drive. And I'd like to say that I've been here in Coppell for 32 years, and I was the second owner of this house. And my carport I put in 90, I think it was 95, 96, and it's lasted. It's been there. It's structurally sound, and it's such a help to have that. As the previous lady said, we don't really have that much space in those houses, and I use the space in the garage for a lot of storage, and so it's a help to have the carport there, so I can protect my car and safely go to my car, and you know, in the evenings or at night or something like that. Hopefully, we can get this through, and it will make a difference to a lot of people. And my carport looked like one of those that were shown on the screen. So it's pretty sound. So hopefully, it'll be passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the list are Mr. and Mrs. Wick. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Marge Wick, and I live at 523 Lee Drive. And we've owned the unit since 1987. And in 2007, unfortunately, my husband has had some major issues with walking, so we put the carport up. I did not know that we did not have a permit. I just assumed when they constructed it that it was permitted to have. So for me, I cannot get him into the garage, open the door, get him into the wheelchair, and wheel him into the house because there is not room. So with the carport, I can pull in wide enough, since it's a two-car carport, into the middle, get him out into the wheelchair, and even if it's raining and the wind is blowing, it still doesn't wetten him. And I can wheel him through the garage, because I have a little ramp in there, and get him into the house safely. That's one issue that I have to deal with. Secondly, I believe if a fire truck had to come down from Willingham to Lee Drive and came around that corner, they would not make it, because all the cars that are parked there are on both sides of the street, and it's difficult to come around that curve. And with carports, it takes them off the street. That's my issue number 2. Number 3, I would just like to say, when we put the carport up, we did not know what the conditions were. So all of a sudden, I guess in 2015, a change was made. That doesn't apply to us because ours were put up in 2007. The one behind me was 2012, and the one down the street was 2008. And I believe there were a couple in 1997. They're metal. They don't blow with the wind. They don't have cracks in them. There's no marks on them from hail or snow or anything. However, there is one carport, because I went around the neighborhood and checked, that has plastic covers, and those blow off all the time. In fact, one of them blew into a neighbor's yard, and she had to let them know that the plastic blew off that wooden carport into her yard. And fortunately, nobody was out there to get injured. So they're very safe. I believe if you drive down the alleys and look them over, they've been in there for so long, and they are within the property line, right lined up mostly with the fence. The garbage trucks drive down, moving vans drive down. Anybody drives down the alley, they do not touch the carports. So I would appreciate it if you could consider us. They're very well structured, and they've been there for years, and they're still in mint conditions. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Next is Lucero Cortez. Name and address, please.
My name is Lucero. Whoa, sorry. My name is Lucero Cortez, and I live at 216 Nixon Street. I purchased this home in 2017, and the house has approximately 1,200 square feet with a small one-car garage. I want to first thank you all because the common sense approach that I just read definitely is what I would say any city would want to give to its constituents, right? It's not, no, you can't have it. It's not, no, you should tear it down now. It's, let's see what we can do to extend what we already have. Majority of Coppell is not built with McMansions or the other side of Denton Tap Road. They're huge. They have huge properties. Well, they don't have huge property lots, but they have huge houses with huge garages. And as Coppell has grown, we've seen more and more houses built like that. So I want to thank you for your work on moving forward. I also want to thank Mr. Glenn for the asks because they are important. Money is an issue. We're just coming out of COVID. Many of us have not had jobs. I know I lost my job for nearly a year. I want to give you guys some statistics. Most homes that are built in 1980, when cars, trucks, and vans were not as large or as tall as they are today. Currently, I own a Chevy 2003 Avalanche. I can't fit it in my garage without taking out the whole entire garage, like taking it out. I would hit my garage door. Vehicles built before 1990 were under 200 inches long. My car garage is only 14 feet. That's 168 inches long. Cars now, since 2019, are 216 inches long or longer. So even as we continue to buy newer vehicles, they wouldn't fit in our garage if we tried, let alone the height of them. It is not efficient or effective or even cost effective to build out my garage. I have no more room on the side land to do that with, let alone build it up so that it could fit a larger vehicle. Now, I myself do not have a carport. I've often thought of one because my vehicle is my investment too, and when the hail comes, the first thing I think, how am I going to cover my truck from getting damaged? As I saw other people's carports, I often thought, that might be a good investment. And just recently hearing that I'm going to increase my taxes by putting up a garage carport thrills me to the bone, right? But it shows that it is taken into consideration as a part of our value to our homes. So to ask people to tear it down now would really be an injustice unless you're going to give us a big break on our taxes, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon, right? So I just wanted to let you guys know that prior to 1980, most garages were 14 to 16 feet with a width of 6 to 7 feet and a height of only 5 to 6 feet. Most garages now built in 2000 plus are 20 by 20 feet, 12 feet high. That's a pretty large garage door to fit a vehicle in. We don't have that luxury in Sherwood. And so we have to find the ability to create that. And so by having the ability to build carports, whether it's in Sherwood or anywhere in Coppell, really should be permitted. And with that, I leave you with the thought that the common sense approach was great. I enjoyed reading it. It shows that our city is really thinking of its citizens before it just decides to put down the hammer and say, no, we're not going to have something. So I do appreciate everyone's ability to come and allow us to do this. But remember that as vehicles get bigger and wider and heavier, the garages aren't going to fit it. Any garage in older Coppell is just not going to have the fit that it needs for that. And so, as you know, cars aren't getting any cheaper, so we have to protect our investment just like our homes. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next is John Wong.
I cannot talk.
Thank you very much.
I cannot change.
Okay, next is, and I'm going to have trouble with this last name, Joanne Soed.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk, thank you.
How badly did I do on the name? What's that?
Suede.
Suede, okay, well, not close, but thank you.
Not close.
And Alberto? All right. And last on the list is Jean Ruscovius. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jean Roscovius. The address of the property I own is 483 Parkway. I kind of represent a different perspective. I do have that property as an ownership, or excuse me, a landlord. I do rent it out. I do believe in the quality of life for people to live in, and so I do think the carport is a very important issue to be able to allow. I've had my tenants. I don't have a carport right now, and but I do try to improve my property as time allows and money allows. And so that's when, actually my son has a property also in the subdivision. When he received this letter, I thought, this needs to be addressed. And so I just wanted to say that I'm glad that the Goings got together and the community of the neighborhoods got together and signed the petitions to ask for the amendment. I am the one who sent the email about the trash. I could have swore at the meeting they said that it was just cars, but anyway, I do apologize for that, but because I do think that's important. But anyway, I just want to say it is a very quality of life issue that I think needs to be addressed for the people that live there, from the elderly to the small families, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was everyone that was signed up to speak. Council, we'll turn it over to you for questions. You may ask Ms. Perone Boswell or Mr. Goyne if necessary. Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Boswell, I have a question for you. I'm not sure if you're the right person to ask, but I'll ask anyway. So if a new applicant applied for a permit for a carport in the Sherwood Park area, what would be the process?
So, like the other person was asking, would they have to hire a structural engineer? No, because at that point, they are providing plans with structural information for us to evaluate it. And we have our building official here as well who would actually process those plans and look at them and review them for approval.
So if they do apply for, a person now applies for one, they would have to have their own structural engineer to go? No.
No. So with the ones that are already existing, because we don't have plans to show how they were constructed and the details of, is it in the concrete? How far deep is it? Are the footings there? That's why we need the structural engineer for it. When you actually apply for a carport today, you would provide all that information up front so that we would see, yes, you are following, the guidelines for a carport construction.
Okay, I was just trying to see if there's a alternative way rather than a structural engineer to be, I guess, evaluating the existing carports, or if there's a similar way, if a new application came in, is there a way to kind of try to conform to that without, because I don't know what the cost is, but just trying to see if there's a minimal way to minimize, cost for them as well.
Right, so it's two different processes. The existing ones would have to hire the structural engineer so that we can have confidence that it's safe. Any new carports that would be applied for, they'd have to go through, there's a checklist of items that they would have to provide.
Okay, thank you.
My fear is requiring a structural engineer to come in and evaluate an existing structure. He's not going to be able to see what the footings are. And we're certainly not going to ask him to do exploratory demolition to be able to expose the footing. I would like to ask Mr. Hager if we allow those to stand as they are, we're not responsible for their structural integrity, are we?
No.
Sorry about that. We can walk all the way down there.
It's not really an issue, it's a neighborhood issue to ensure that the rest of the neighbors are safe. Because if the wind comes on that one day and blows top off and hurts someone, then, that's why we have building codes, is to ensure the safety of the people that live there as well as the other neighbors. But as far as city having liability, if one of them fails, we do not.
Okay. But
The city doesn't have liability. The homeowner will have liability.
Yes.
But we have building codes to ensure, to help our citizens protect themselves and the surrounding property. So that's why we require those conditions to ensure that the public is safe.
Thank you.
So with no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion at this time. Councilmember Carroll.
Well, with that, I would move to close the public hearing and approve item, what are we on, number? 12. Item number 12, with the conditions as written, but I would also propose that we add the conditions of waiving the permit fees and allowing up to 12 months to get in compliance, is what I would move.
We have a motion and a second to approve item number 12 as written with conditions, with the additional condition of the permit fee be waived and that the resident be given 12 months to complete the application.
Mayor.
Councilmember,
No, wait.
we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Councilmember Hill?
Can I make a motion to amend his proposal?
A motion is always appropriate.
I make a motion that we strike the requirement for structural engineering report. Second.
Okay, I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Hinojosa Smith. So there is a motion on the floor to strike the need for a structural engineer. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Carroll.
Just to make one clarification, the permit fees, the motion I was making was to waive permit fees on the existing structures that need permits. It would not necessarily apply to any new ones, to clarify that.
It makes a lot of sense.
I'm just clarifying what my intent was.
So we can do two things. You can make a motion to modify Councilmember Hill's motion, or we can vote on his motion, and then you can make a motion to amend your original.
Oh, government.
I would.
Well, let me ask. Let me ask this: what if we don't modify? I guess I was just trying to clarify the permit fees. I wasn't trying to change what I initially said. So if we vote on it, what would we be voting on? It was a clarification more than changing the intent.
Right. All right. So, guys, bear with me. This is going to get nasty. We have a motion and a second on the floor to remove the requirement of a structural engineer to review the application. Then that applies to the original motion to accept item number 12 with conditions as written, with the exception that the permit fee for existing structures be waived, and that the owner be given 12 months for compliance. So the motion on the table by Councilmember Hill was to remove the structural engineer requirement from the application.
I'm going to vote on that. I'll second that.
It was already moved and seconded. So all in favor of the motion to remove the structural engineering requirement from the application, please say aye.
No, we're voting on, we have to vote on Mark's first,
Guys,
and then we go to the other.
So we have a motion on a motion, so we have to vote on the last motion made, which was Councilmember Hill's motion to remove the structural engineer requirement from the original motion. So you're only voting to remove the structural engineer at this point. Can all in favor indicate? All in favor?
Long and Hinojosa Smith, Carol Nevels, John Matthew Hill, all in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
All right. There's more. There's more. So we now have a motion on the table to approve item number 12 with the exception of the structural engineer and the addition of the permit fee be waived and the owner be given 12 months for compliance. Is there? I'm sorry? Oh, and close the public hearing. And close the public hearing. Thank you. Is there any discussion? You want me to restate the motion? Cliff does. Okay. The motion on the table is item number 12 to approve item 12 as written with the exception of removing the structural engineer as part of the application process and to remove the permit fee requirement and to give the owner 12 months to fall into compliance and to close the public hearing. On the existing structure.
I have to write the ordinance, so I have a question. You said remove the permit fee. Is that for all of them?
That was to remove the permit fee for existing structures. Thank you, sir.
You made me walk down here.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, do we have a, Councilmember Hill?
Well, I would just like to say that I think this is the way that cities ought to work, that we come to an agreement for neighborhoods and what they're willing to accept in terms of beauty or other items that may be considered by others an eyesore. But if that neighborhood is what says that carports are wonderful, then we've done the right thing. And I think we found a equal ground here that will make all the homeowners happy. And I think it will probably help in terms of resale value, because they no longer have any concerns about there being encumbrances for unpermitted structures on their site. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Hinojosa Smith.
I know everyone's anxious to get to the vote, but Councilmember Hill, I couldn't agree more. I think I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for being here, for your patience. I know this has been going on for a really long time, but just being willing to have the conversation and for being willing to be here and share the progress and for helping to find a solution. Because there's a lot of different ways this could have gone, and it sounds like we found a win-win for everybody. So just wanted to say thank you.
Ready for a vote? So all in favor?
Long and Hinojosa Smith, Carol Nevels, John Matthew Hill, all in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
The mayor usually doesn't say anything, but I'd like to echo Mayor Pro Tem Hinojosa Smith and Councilmember Hill. This has been a long time coming. You guys got started this, I don't know, back in August or something. It's been painful. We don't make decisions quickly, but I like to think that we take our time and make them correctly, and I think that was exactly what we saw here tonight. So thank you for your time and patience and understanding. All right, item number 13 is a public hearing, and I'll open the public hearing and let Ms. Mary Perrone Boswell read it into the record.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second public hearing this evening. Consider approval of PD 161 R3 SF12 Stratford Manor Hog Fence, a zoning change request from PD 161 R1 SF12 to PD 161 R3 SF12 to allow for a hog wire fence on the HOA lot 14X, Block A, on 2.3 acres of land located at the end of the cul-de-sac on Stratford Lane at the request of Stratford Manor HOA. So I'm going to begin with a very brief history on wild pigs. Taken from an article written by John C. Kinsey and posted on the Texas Parks and Wildlife website. So pigs are not native to North America, but introduced by explorers. So domestic pigs were brought in as a low-maintenance source of food, and as explorers moved across the continent, those domestic pigs left behind to fend for themselves became feral. The article goes on to say that from 1982 to 2016, the wild pig population in the U.S. increased from 2.4 million to 6.9 million, with 2.6 million estimated to be residing in Texas alone. So if you look at the image on the screen of Texas, basically they occupy every county in Texas except for one. The population in the U.S. continues to grow rapidly due to their high reproduction rate, generalist diet, and lack of natural predators. Wild pigs can start breeding as young as 6 months, with females having an average litter size of 4 to 6 piglets, and can potentially breed multiple times a year. Wild pigs are omnivores, consume between 3 to 5% of their body mass daily, and according to the article, it claims that wild pigs are listed as one of the top 100 worst exotic invasive species in the world. Most damage caused by wild pigs is either through rooting or direct consumption of plant and animal materials. They are capable of transmitting at least 30 bacterial, fungal, and viral diseases which threaten humans, livestock, and wildlife. So the property under discussion for this zoning request is the 2.3 acre HOA lot located at the end of Stratford Lane, backs up to Denton Creek. This lot is heavily treed and has a 20-foot wide drainage easement running north-south from the street to the creek. The 100-year floodplain is located at the rear portion of the lot, approximately 256 feet from the cul-de-sac, and the fence is about 72, 73 feet off the cul-de-sac, approximately 180 feet from the floodplain. So our engineering staff did look at this. It will not impact the floodplain at all. They are okay with the location of this fence. Stratford Manor has been dealing with the wild pig problem for a few years now. Ms. McGill, who lives at 718 Stratford Lane, which abuts the HOA lot on the east, and the residents at 717 Stratford Lane, which abut the HOA lot on the west, have had multiple run-ins with the wild pigs. The first run-in was in October of 2020, when they rooted up the front yard of Ms. McGill. In September, the following year, in September of 2021, the McGills witnessed the wild pigs in the evening in their front yards and thought that they had scared them off. Unfortunately, the next morning, this was not the case. Both neighboring property owners awoke to damaged front yards. So here's just some images of what the pigs did to their front yards. Apparently they have really nice grubs or something in their lawns because the pigs made another visit on October 10th and the 15th, again causing damage to their properties and landscaping. So the residents did contact a trapper, and in their discussion with the trapper, the wild pigs, if trapped, would not necessarily result in permanent solution. So they decided not to hire the trapper, also because they would have to move the traps through their property onto the HOA lot, and it really wasn't feasible. So they decided to install a hog wire fence to stop the hogs from being able to access the street and, in effect, their neighborhood and front yards. So I took this picture standing kind of in their cul-de-sac, looking at Miss McGill's house on the right, 717 Stratford on the left, and the HOA lot dead ahead. So the fence is located on the HOA lot and ties into the two residential side yard fences. The fence itself is not immediately visible from the street. Now, they did come before, we are coming before you for a PD amendment because the material does not comply with the required decorative metal. Excuse me. So the hog wire panels that they do use, they're 16 feet wide by 52 inches tall, and they're tied to fence stakes. So the image on the bottom right shows where it ties in Miss McGill's property. The image on the left, bottom left, is where it ties into the side yard of 717. The image in the center gives you a basic diagram of how that fence is located on the HOA lot. So these images, we did walk into the HOA lot. You can see how the fence weaves its way through the tree line and the topography, and it's not located, as I mentioned, in the 100-year floodplain. So on the left is an illustration of what the hog wire fence looks like graphically. The upper panels have an opening of 8 inches wide by 6 inches tall. The bottom two rows of the panel are 8 inches wide by 4 inches tall, which prevent the baby wild pigs from access. The fence is approximately 339 feet in length and about 73 feet from the street. So after the P&Z meeting, excuse me, the one of the things that was discussed, so on your left you see the location of the fence. One of the residents on Cambridge Manor Lane, outlined in orange, came to the meeting, discussed that, they were not in favor of the fence, both because of the material and because they could see it from their backyard. So one of the conditions that P&Z added was that, because they did approve this fence, was that the neighbors get together with staff and look at alternate placing of the terminus of the fence on the east side, so to move it more westerly. So we did meet with both parties. So that shows you where the fence is. So on the bottom diagram, you can see where the fence is connected into the McGill's property. After our meeting, both parties agreed to the new location, and that's about 110 feet from the rear property line of the McGills. So we did send out notices as required by state law, 16 within 200 feet. We received 6 in favor, 1 opposed, another 67 within 800 feet, 7 in favor, 2 opposed. We also received a signed petition from 25 of the residents on Stratford Lane, all in favor of keeping the fence to protect their properties and to allow their children to play on the street. So the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval, unanimous approval of PD 161R3 SF12 hog fence for Stratford Manor, Lot 14X, Block A, subject to the following conditions. 1, the HOA would be responsible for repairing and/or replacing the hog fence in the event of work needing to be done by the city in the drainage easement or any utility work in a utility easement. 2, that a gate shall be added to the fence to allow for city access to the city's drainage easement. 3, that the fence area shall be kept free of debris. And 4, the P&Z added this one, the applicant and staff to work with Cambridge Manor to relocate a portion of the eastern side of the fence more westerly and add shrubs for screening. If no resolution was found, then the fence may stay where it was. So, as I mentioned, we did meet with the resident on Cambridge Manor with Ms. McGill, and we did find an alternate location for the fence that was agreed upon by both parties. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm available for any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Councilmember John?
Thank you, Mayor. If you could go back, I guess, can we go back to the slide one more? Okay, here. So I'm trying to understand, even if we move the fence to the proposed new location, how does that prevent the hogs from coming from around the other way where there's no fences?
So on the screen where you see the houses 717, 718, there's a fence on their side yards that go all the way down to their property lines. So the arched fence or the hog wire fence ties into their side yard fences, not allowing any openings to get off of the HOA lot into the cul-de-sac.
Okay, so each property have their own fences around their lot.
Correct.
And this is adding additional barrier, so to say.
Right, because prior to this, the HOA lot was essentially open. So the hogs had pretty much open access to just come down the street.
Okay, because I get it, putting the fence I guess, additional barrier. I just didn't want to, have to spend the money and then find out that they're actually going around somewhere else, and now we got to spend additional money to put additional fences.
Right, so, let me go back to, actually, on the bottom
So while we're on that,
Yes, sir.
that train, why are the other subdivisions not having the same trouble? Because each one of them has that open area at the end of the cul-de-sac.
So actually, Cambridge Manor has had the similar issue. 723 Cambridge Manor has had their lawn uprooted as well. But this group came before us to put up the hog wire fence and to allow for
fix Stratford.
something other than a decorative fence.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Nevels?
Just a quick question. This particular PD amendment that we're looking at, that's only for the end of Stratford Manor? Like it would not, if Cambridge had another issue, they would need to come to us and we would need to file an additional amendment?
Correct. So this is
Or they would-
amending the PD for Stratford Manor itself.
Okay.
So this relates solely to Lot 14X.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Carroll?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. I think you've already clarified it, but the Cambridge Manor resident, that's all been worked out, so they're good with the new location of the fence, is that right?
They're good with the new location, but they were not happy with the material.
Okay, but you can't see it from
Correct.
Cambridge, from their side of the street, is that right? Is that?
Correct. We essentially it would move 100 feet.
Okay.
And it's heavily treed.
Okay. And then second, just out of curiosity, the 2 or 3 oppositions that you got in responses, what kind of opposition? Was it the material or what?
Yes, sir.
What, it was all related to material, just
Yes,
the way
sir.
it looked?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, thanks.
I show that I don't have who the applicant is. Is this the Stratford Manor or HOA or?
Stratford Manor HOA.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is there a representative here to speak on behalf of the HOA?
So I believe Mr. Martinez is. Yeah, he's not well this evening, so we do have Ms. McGill who's speaking for them.
So, Ms. McGill, do you have anything to say on behalf of the HOA? Please come forward. It's not that we're trying to be mean, but people that are remote can't hear you when you're not speaking into the microphone. State your name and address, please.
My name is Kay McGill, and I'm at 718 Stratford Lane.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say that in the year of 21, when this first hog episode occurred, I did go down to the animal control, and they told me there was nothing that they could do to help us. So after having my yard torn up 3 times in 15 days, I talked to my brother-in-law that's a rancher, and this is what the recommendation was, that this fence is what would keep the hogs out. So I want everyone to know it's not just a property damage issue, but there are a lot of elementary children that live on our street that play in the cul-de-sac and play in that HOA common area, so it's a safety issue for them as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
This is a public hearing, and we did have a number of people sign up to speak. Ms. McGill, you were first on the list. I'm assuming you just said your... Oh, I'm sorry. Cliff, Councilmember Long, did you have a question?
No, I just have, yes, I have a question. This doesn't directly relate. This doesn't directly relate to our fence situation, but I'm curious as to the discussions that John was relating to. Councilman John. Was relating to about the hogs. I have a nice feeding ground for hogs in southeast Texas that is a second home. And so we have this problem too. It comes and it goes. They come in and they go. But, a feral hog doesn't know the difference in a trail and a concrete street. And so, was there any discussion at all about the fact that they, at any point in time, they can just move around the fences till they find an open spot and walk down the streets and help themselves to the front yards?
So, obviously our discussion with them was to look at where they had the fence currently, because that part is open. The rest of the residences, did have or do have fences along the rear or side for, protection, if that's how you want to phrase it. Even some of the neighboring properties on Cambridge Manor, like the property at 723, they received a visit from the hogs as well. So it's not that, it's stopping it from going down the street on this subdivision, and that's what was brought before us. And so that's
okay.
where,
Well, that's what I thought, and
Right.
so I realize it's not directly related, but it's indirectly related. So I suppose they understand that the front yards are going to get it next. It's just one of those things that we live with, and so.
the hogs are very smart.
Yeah, they are. They're a smart animal.
Mhm.
After the generations of hogs that have been here for that many years, for over 100 years, they've learned a few things.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Council, any other questions? All right, next signed up on the list to speak was Angie Allen. Somebody signed you up, but that's okay. Next on the list is, and I'm going to get the last name wrong, I think, Mary Kansora? Thank you. Ken Allen? George Cooper? It is all in the same handwriting.
That's kind of funny. Good evening. My name is George Cooper. I live at 706 Stratford Lane, which is right up the block from the McGills. First, I've been a resident and a voting member of this community for the last 3 years. I love this place. I could not think of a better place to retire. But as a physician and a father, I'm really concerned about the safety of our children on this street when the hogs come through, okay? Now, the McGill's yard looks terrible. It has looked really bad. But that is nothing compared to a 300-pound animal running over a 5-year-old, rupturing their spleen or enucleating an eye. These kids can't get out of the way. And the hog doesn't know that this is a child. Oh, I'll go around that and look for the grubs in the ground. That's not going to happen. So I wanted to get it on record that this presents a public health issue. Not only has Mary mentioned the pestilence that these animals can transmit, including tuberculosis, okay? These are not your Smithfield hogs. I lived in a community where Smithfield processed 30,000 hogs a day. They are not these animals. These are, 300-pound rats. And I felt that it was important to recognize this fact and the fact that the McGills really acted proactively and at their own expense put this fencing up to protect our kids. We have, no exaggeration, of the 6 homes in this cul-de-sac, not including the block that goes up to DeForest, we have 18 children. They play in the backyards, sure they do, but they play on the street. you can't roller skate on grass, you can't throw a ball around and bounce around on grass so well. So no exaggeration, these kids play in the street, and they range in age from, I think Hannah's about 10 months old, she's the youngest, and go up to around 14, 15. So, these kids are out there, and I felt that was important to recognize. The property is one thing, but the safety factor is just hugely out there. So, one kid gets hurt, it's a big deal. So, thank you for your time. Appreciate everything that you guys and Mary have done. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Cindy Deloach.
I'm not Cindy, sorry. I was wondering if I signed up, but it was already gone when I got here.
If I may, Mrs. Sign has an incredible story of the tale of hawks going through her yard. Destroying her car. So if you have the time to listen to her.
Okay. So let me go to our last speaker, and then I'll give you the chance to speak. Dennis McGill.
I just want to make a couple quick comments. Dave and I have lived at 718 Stratford for 21 years.
So
718 Stratford, Dennis McGill.
Thank you,
We've
sir.
been there 21 years. We are wildlife friendly. In the 20-plus years, we've established roles. She relocates all the snakes. I relocate all of the armadillo safely. So we understand the situation here being very unique and that it is a safety issue and a destruction issue. Our yard, and it was the front yard, by the way, that was destroyed, we probably spent another $1,500 to get it replaced, and we probably got the same amount of money in the fence. Again, not here to discuss that, other than at some point you have to take action. So when Kay went to talk to animal control, and their comment was, we really can't help you. There's nothing we can do. I interpret that as then we've got to take our own action. We met with the trapper. We learned a lot about hogs talking with the trapper. One thing that I would add to this discussion is he has worked with all of the cities in this area, and he realizes this issue is bigger than any one city can deal with. And his recommendation had been to get multiple cities to come together for a larger solution, because one fence for Stratford Lane solves my problem. It doesn't solve the problem in the city. You understand that as well. There may not even be a solution, but you can't be ignored. So anyhow, that's the only comment I want to make, other than if you need a snake relocated, Kay is trained. Pardon me? I'm armadillos, and the only thing I would add before I sit down is that having the assignment of armadillos, because the yard would get messed up, I have a safe trap, I get them, I relocate them. When I looked out the morning after this thing, I said to myself, we're going to need a bigger boat.
Thank you very much. Ma'am? If you would, state your name and address, please.
My name is Ruth Sign, and I'm at 638 Stratford. So I think they wanted me to speak because I bring the perspective of a mother with 5 kids. We have 5 kids on the street. My kids range in age from 3 to 15. And we've actually had the hogs uproot our wrought iron fence when they've tried to come into our yard. And I don't have a problem with animals. We have raccoons, and they're not my favorite. But we get them in our backyard, but hogs, not so much. And George alluded to the fact that we had an incident with a hog as we were driving home from a cross-country trip where it must have gotten spooked, and it slammed into the side of our car, so dented the door, and then went under and pulled off our bumper as it came out. It was a 300-pound animal that then just ran away. We never saw it. We just saw the damage to our car and felt it, as you know, we thought we were going to be badly hurt as we rolled over it. So as we spoke about, the biggest thing and concern that we have on our street is just the the worry of our kids. These hogs have been seen in the day and at night. So when our kids are out there, it's definitely worrisome that these hogs are out there. Now, Kay and her husband Dennis are like grandparents on the street. They were proactive about putting that up because of our kids, because our kids are out there all the time. And so this fence has been something that has kept the hogs out. We haven't seen them. We haven't noticed the damage, and it's been very helpful. And I think the only concern we all had included on our street was the discord it created between our neighbors, because in some ways it feels like we're all one big HOA, even though we're two different HOAs. And I think that problem has been resolved with the agreement that they were able to come up with, and with Mary's help. So I think that this is something that we would really appreciate you all letting us keep for safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, any comments or further questions? If not, I would entertain a motion. Councilmember Carroll.
I do have one question, just I guess sort of semantics. So this, we will, if we approve this, it approves this particular hog fence. So if something needed to be altered or a fence in a different location, we would have to readdress again. Is that correct? Or what is the extent of this? Is it just the one?
So essentially, you're approving the alternate material for the fence.
Okay.
If you want to tweak the recommendation so that they can alter it, as need be, but essentially they've identified kind of an optimal location for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back here.
So, if I may, Councilmember Carroll, this is for a specific lot. I mean, it's very specific
Right.
to this one location.
Okay. Okay.
So,
All right.
right.
Yep.
So we're talking about this specific lot and this specific location. We've worked with the neighbors on Cambridge Manor to, push it more westerly so that they won't see it, but it will still serve the same purpose.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Thanks.
Councilmember Nevels.
And to further clarify, the approving the alternate material, it's only for this particular run of fence. It wouldn't be another piece of fence on the property, or would the entire property be able to be use the different material? Just this run?
Right.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any additional fence being required at this time.
If there was future fence, though, it could be used with the.
I'll let Bob answer that.
Thank you.
Council, any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Councilmember Carroll?
Well, I will move to close the public hearing and approve item, I've lost my 13, number 13, with conditions.
All right, we have a motion to approve item number 13, close the public hearing, and include the 4 conditions. A second from Councilmember Nevels. All in favor?
Long and Nahosa Smith, Carol Nevels, John Matthew Hill, all in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 14 is a city manager report, project updates, and future agendas.
Mayor and Council, just a couple of updates. The wagon wheel elevated water tank, the work is basically complete, but the logo painting has been delayed. And given that we are going to be in the 90s for the rest of the month, there's a probable high likelihood that if we don't get the painting done in the next week or so, that we'll be putting that off until this fall, just because of peak water usage and being able to keep that water tank in session. So the water tank is filled now, and it is working, and the work's been done. It's just a matter of the finish off on the logo. I don't know if you've been by Bethel School and Denton Tap lately, but the concrete power poles are finally in place. The project that just keeps giving. And so we're several weeks away from finally getting that project back on track and moving forward. Plantation, by the end of the month, demobilization should occur, so we should be completely out of there by the end of the month. And the last thing, Mayor, is on Friday, May the 20th, the utility building will be closing at noon for the afternoon, and will reopen again at 8. So all other ways of making payments for your bills are still available to you. It's just in person will not be available from noon till 5 that day. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 15 is Mayor and Council reports. Coppell seeks residents to serve on our Special Counsel and Ethics Review Panel. Applications will be accepted online through June 13th. Let's see, the Coppell Farmers Market is the best unique small market in the DFW area. Vendors feature grass-fed meats and poultry, organic eggs, artisan breads, honey, and other specialty products. We invite you to come out to the farmers market to find local healthy food, develop relationships with those providing your food, and meet up with friends and neighbors and be part of the local movement. It starts, or doesn't start, it continues May 14th from 8 a.m. to noon. Then the Coppell Community Chorale presents In Good Time on Saturday, May 14th at 7 p.m. and Sunday, May 15th at 3 p.m. in the main hall of the Coppell Arts Center. Tickets are available online. And also, paint and sips are a fun way to create memories and masterpieces. Bring your friends and significant other to wine up and then wind down during one of our 2-hour painting classes at the Coppell Arts Center on May 18th from 6 to 8 p.m., and tickets are now available. Item number 16 are public service announcements with concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation permitted. I would like to recount that the North Dallas Chamber of Commerce had their annual business meeting yesterday. Council Member Bijou Matthew and Council Member Don Carroll and myself were present, and we got to hear a very, very interesting and very good speech by former Ambassador Kay Bailey Hutchinson. Oh, excuse me. She spoke for about 30 minutes and just kept the entire audience on their seats, so it was great action. Thank you guys for attending. Item number 17 is necessary action from executive session. We had no executive session, so we can move past that one. Item number 18 is adjournment. There being no further business before this council, we are adjourned at 9:27 p.m.
Get it.
Got it.
Get it.